2/31. The notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are listed in the annual agenda. Copies are sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. The notice of the special budget meeting, Resolution 22-90, has been sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley News, has been posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the Municipal Center and Borough website. Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comment. Any citizen who wants to address the governing body on any issue, whether it's on the agenda or not, is welcome to do so. When you come to the microphone or out on Zoom, you'll have to state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to voice your concerns or ask a question of the council. Okay. So Omar, let's see, is there anyone out there on Zoom who would like to make a public comment?
I see no hands, Mayor.
No hands. Is there anyone in the audience here who would like to make a public comment? I don't think I see anyone, Omar.
I see no one here.
Okay.
How much fun this is? How's this make something?
All right. So thank you, everyone. We're going to close public comment. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. The first item on the agenda is our auditor, Paul Lurch. Paul, how you doing tonight? And can you hear us? Can you unmute, Paul?
He's unmuted.
Paul, can you hear us? Paul? You have his cell number. Can we text him?
He had trouble hearing
Paul,
us.
can you hear us? What?
Mayor, he had trouble hearing us.
It's Andrew. Hold on, we're texting him now. Unless, Andrew, you're going to fill in for the auditor right now. Right. Susan said it. Are you texting him?
You see?
I see
Yeah,
him
I can
right,
see.
right there on the screen.
Is there?
Can you message Paul, Omar?
Yes, I can message him. Yes.
Message him, tell him to unmute, or we're trying to talk to
He's
him.
unmuted. I can message him.
Yeah. Maybe he has to call in. They tell him to call in. You get that? Well. Did you get it?
What was that?
She just got it.
Deborah, can you hear us? Yes.
Yes, I
Paul, Can
can.
you hear us?
He said no, he can't.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Paul, what did Paul say?
Paul said no. I'll ask him to try to call.
So send
Would
him
you
a
like me to
message
go
that
first?
indicates we're waiting for him. No, we're not ready for that yet.
Okay.
We may do that, but we're not ready for it quite yet.
Let's see if we go.
Hold on a second. Yeah, we're gonna work
Yeah,
on that.
I just asked him to call in.
It's not.
Actually, while you're trying to do this, I'd love just if I could say something.
Say something.
So I just wanted to kick off the meeting. I really was moved. Councilman Grossman, if you remember at the last budget meeting, brought up the red pen and the blue. And the positive is it was really good. The negative was I haven't slept much over the past couple of days because I've been thinking about it. And if the council agrees,
Hey, Rob.
there are, to hurt me to say this,
Should we have
5
you hang
things
around?
I think we should be doing.
Listen, this is like, I never had
Yeah,
it
hey, Paul, hold on. All right, Paul, hold on a second. Go ahead,
like
Councilman.
zero volume.
So, with your
And I have
approval,
the
I think
headset,
it's
which
5
works
things.
always, all the time for me. I never have an issue with it. But I'm not muted.
Okay, can you mute him now because he's talking to someone else? Thank you. Go ahead.
So the first thing is, we've actually been meeting with our county, state, federal legislators, we know them. I would recommend that we as a council lay out the top 3 things that we have as priorities over the next 3 years. We need a fire truck for a year from now. We need a police car, big things, not $50 things. And we should write up a memo from the desk of, Tenafly and make sure our representatives know where our priorities are, such that they could start looking out for us. They always say, hey, how can we help you? It doesn't work if in 15 minutes we have a budget meeting, you get me a fire truck. So my first specific app would be, and if it's led by the mayor or council president, let's get our 3 to 5 things, it should be 10 things, and write a formal letter to our representatives and get them things. That's 1. 2,
Well,
as we get, every year that goes by, things get more expensive. There's nothing you can do about inflation. There's nothing you can do about staff. We have to get smarter about how we do work. In my world, there's always ways to leverage technology to reduce stuff. My world, 5 years ago, I had my own HR representative that literally helped me fill out what my goals were for the year, whether it's, filling out paperwork to hire somebody. Now, it was all push, it's all electronic. And now that same HR rep is now doing strategic things about us. I would ask if it's appropriate for Jimmy to think about work with his department heads. We have to think about things that we can do to reduce the staff element and not reduce them, just like we did with the police, the DPW, get them to higher value things. So I will ask Jimmy to do that if you agree. Third is about working again with the department heads. We pick our existing budget and we just take the same $100 we got last year, and do we need anything else? I would challenge again, 1853, I bet there was a buggy whip, buzz line item. We probably don't need those anymore. I asked Jimmy to work with the department heads to look at, my world has a negative connotation, it's called zero-based budgeting, but start from 0 and work up versus starting at $1 million and add. Then last 2 are the grants.
So that's coming through.
I still think the way we do grants.
yeah, that's coming through.
We have a part-time someone in our engineering. They're only going to do stuff that puts money in their pocket. I think there's another way to look at that. And then the last thing, joint use. So I guarantee you that if you had $110 million budget versus a 30 plus an $80 million budget, we find more efficiencies. And if you guys agree, I would task Jimmy with working with his counterpart in the school, find me 3 more areas that we could save on jointly procuring stuff. So those are my 5. I welcome the discussion. I agree with Jeff. We cannot continue to, if we're not going to proactively drive efficiencies, the budget's going to go up 2% every year for 0 value, and then you're going to add another 2% because we do have to grow this town. We have to make things better. So I just wanted to start with that. I appreciate Councilman Grossman's push on it. I apologize for not thinking about it earlier, but those were my 5 very specific actionable things I would recommend.
Just a quick response I think any ideas are welcome. I don't think this is the appropriate time to do it, where we're rushing to do a budget. I don't think it'll be productive to look into it for this budget cycle.
I didn't say for this budget cycle.
But in that case, then we should have it on the agenda for a meeting. We should flesh out what your proposal is instead of just having a discussion at this point. So and that's what I would say. We should put it onto the agenda and discuss it more fully if you want.
Obviously, I think it's a good idea for the 2023 budget. And we need to have the discussion starting, obviously not tonight, but sooner rather than later. Interesting that you should mention zero-based budgeting, which is a dirty word in some circles. Yeah, it's actually something that I discussed at a council meeting in our first year, Lauren. What was it,
3 years ago.
2018, 17?
I think we've had these discussions a number of times over the years.
That one was definitely discussed. It's not easy to discuss, but it's something that we should never stop looking at. Right now, our immediate challenge is, as I said the other night, the red pen for this budget. And it's going to be tough. It's tough decisions to make.
Go
Yeah,
ahead and look at where it's not, this is not a, I don't, actually, I have
Right.
no interest in having a discussion.
no,
These are things we should do, and it takes 365 days to do it. If we wait till, let's talk about the budget cycle.
short and long of it is, I'm agreeing with you. As soon as we're done with this year's budget, that should be where we start to head.
I'm going to, good ideas. But I'm going to intervene for a minute here and let's get this underway. Now, Paul Lurch has kind of disappeared from the screen. I don't know, I assume he's going to call in or he's dealing with technology problems. So let's start with the Nature Center. Deborah? How are you? So how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Can
being
you hear me?
here.
Thank you.
And we can hear you. Andrew, thank you for being here.
I want to first apologize for
Okay,
giving you
so-
the documentation that I sent just recently. I was having some computer issues today,
Okay.
so.
So you have the floor. It's your 30 minutes. So why don't you start off? You have a letter, you want to talk, give us a narrative about what you're talking about, and let's walk through your budget. It's all yours. Go ahead, please.
Great, thank you. So first of all, I want to just thank you all for taking the time to speak with me today. The Tenafly Nature Center has had several very crazy years, but this past year has been definitely one for the books. We have worked with the
Now I
borough
can't hear a word.
since 1961, which is when the mayor and council worked together to create the Tenafly Nature Center. And since that time, we have really been there for our community, and we have looked to different ways in which we can bring Tenafly to a point where other communities look to us for how to do things or what to do. We really focus on preserving our 400-acre preserve that we've been tasked for stewarding. We are always looking for different ways that we can present different environmental education programs, providing a safe space for recreative activities up here at the Nature Center, and really trying to promote a sense of community engagement for the entire community at large. In 2021, we provided over 1,900 programs for over 22,000 participants, virtually and in person, both on site and at other locations. We saw a need with the school districts being all virtual, that the students here, especially in Tenafly, really needed that outlet for in-person engagement. So we created a enrichment program that we ran throughout the week. We provided a lot of free programming for our borough community partners like the library and the recreation center and senior center. And we counted last year over 20,000 visitors that came to TNC to enjoy the trails. And those are just the people that came on the main trail by the parking lot in the main building. There were probably countless others that came through the other trail entrances, especially in the month of September when we were closed at the entrance for that month. We are always here for our community. We are always here to answer questions. We are always here to be able to bring to light specific concerns. And we want to really make sure that we are here for our community so that our community here can continue to gain all the benefits of having a nature center here in Tenafly. We have to provide the staff to reside on site to oversee the preserve, and we do that. And we make sure that we maintain and clean our facilities here at the preserve so that guests have something to utilize. basically this year, we've had a lot going on. We've cleaned up hundreds of gallons of garbage off the trails to maintain that clean space that all people here in Tenafly desire. We've removed a lot of invasive species that have kind of taken over swaths of the preserve, and making sure that we've provided new signage so that individuals who do come up here do not get lost along the way. We utilize volunteers as much as possible, and we work very closely with our local volunteer network through the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, the local Eagle Scouts, to really maintain our trails and take care of the bridges and blazes that need to be maintained annually, especially after large storms, which we have had up here. One of our staff members is chainsaw approved and takes care of a lot of that stuff for us so that we do not have to reach out to the borough as much for certain things. And last year we were able to raise the funds for a new education pavilion for an outdoor space so that the students here in Tenafly have another safe space to utilize. This is all done by a total of 6 staff members that are full-time. We have 3 part-time staff members, and then we have about 16 to 20 seasonal and part-time as needed staff members. The part-time as needed and seasonal staff members, they really are here for about 3,800 hours for the seasonal a year and 1,300 hours for the part-time as needed. The rest of it is really just done by their 6 full-time staff. Of those 6 full-time staff, I really want to highlight, we are maximizing what we all do here. We all wear many, many hats. And as an executive director, I am not just that, I'm also a development supervisor, a volunteer coordinator, marketing manager, you name it, I'm pretty much doing it. An educator, and I teach all the classes just like everyone else when we need it. My land and facilities person wears many hats, not just taking care of land and the facilities and overseeing the almost 400 acres of property here, taking care of the animal ambassadors, being here to support the community with the multitude of phone calls that we get every single day about plant and wildlife questions, overseeing other volunteers and interns, and once again, teaching. Everybody here that is a full-time staff member is one of our teachers on the side. That's not their primary necessarily, but that is something that they do. And we maximize every ounce of work that we do here. Most of us are working 40 hours, but we tend to go a little bit over here and there, just because there's so much to do and there's not enough people here to do it. That being said, the majority of my staff members, I sent you a document. There are out of the 6 full-time staff, 4 of them don't even make $40,000. They make less than that. So being able to reside in this area is pretty much impossible and very difficult. When the Nature Center was first brought about, the borough gave $6,000 to help really with operating. I know in the past we've talked about project-based, but it was really to help with operating. And that was helping to cover that. Today, as you can see, if you look at the sheet that I gave you, last year you gave us $35,000, which we absolutely appreciate. However, we would appreciate even a little more, because to be able to cover the costs of the administrative staff, and by administrative, I also mean land and facilities, and just being able to take care of being here at the front to welcome guests, make sure that people are following the rules, make sure that the safety is being maintained here. We need to have those covered, but we can't necessarily raise the funds for that always. Programming staff.
Deborah, can I ask a question? Deborah?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you hear me? I want to ask you a question because you started talking about this year's asks. I just read your letter. Are you asking for the 45,000 adjusted for inflation or the 40,000?
I'm asking for 40.
You're asking for 40. So I want to ask the council a question here, or just point out the CFO question. If the council chose to, could we take it out of the operating budget and just use money out of open space, which we've done in the past?
Take it, give it another
No, for a project, not for operations.
So, well, hold on, well, let me ask the question, right? They use the money for what they use it for. In other words, what does it matter? If it doesn't matter, if it's legal, if we're giving them $40,000, we're not earmarking that money to use for specific things, are we?
So in the past, what we've done is taken it out of open space and then put it into the master plan for a project. Right? So Mark, you're correct, when they do their budget, because I'm their budget, there's actually, and Deborah was gonna go through this, so Deborah, I know you have a big pitch here. They, as stewards of our land, they spend more than that, to maintain the facilities of the 400 acres. So they can put that in the budget and then offset what they're spending on that into salaries. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Deborah, do you have projects for 2022 coming up?
Do we have projects?
Do you have projects for 2022?
We have several things that we're hoping to accomplish, but the majority of what we,
And how
yeah.
much is that going to cost you? How
Um,
much is it going to cost you for some of those projects?
one of our projects is a $30,000 project. Another project is going to be where we have a $5,000 project that we're trying to start. Well, it's the beginning is the 5,000. There's a lot of things that are
Well,
going on
whatever
here.
they legitimately have, that's all. So what I'm suggesting to the council is, why don't we fund those projects out of the open space money, give them the money for those projects? And then we can take the 40,000 out of the operating budget. And maybe we can consider funding $45,000 worth of projects, so we adjust it for inflation. And we use the red pen on the 40,000 on our operating. Well, that's before, I think, Deborah, I'm just getting to the bottom line quicker. So that's a question for council.
You can take operating.
So can I just ask a question? How much, and I know Deborah and I have discussed this because I see it in the budget meeting. There's significant amount of funds that you have to raise to maintain a steward of the land.
Correct.
Can't we look at that as well, not just a particular project?
I don't have the legal answer to that question. I'm not an attorney. That's the question.
What was the question?
So to maintain the land, to clean up, to cut back branches, to remove invasive species. Maintenance of a green.
That would
space.
be one of their projects.
Yes, so that would,
It would just come to us as a project.
So Deborah, how much is that line item or those line items to be the steward of the land and to clean, the facilities, the land? Just, can I have a sense of that cost?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just looking at things right now really quickly. And then stuff. So the maintenance line items that we have for our budget, for taking care of our land and the facilities is a total of 32,000. And then our staffing alone to help maintain all that currently is about
Not the
36.
staffing, not 30. So don't include the humans, but include the cost of everything else.
Correct. So right
32.
now, we have 32 plus, once again, any other additional things that come up and that we end up having to take care of, i.e. a tree falls down in the forest and we have to clean it up. We got to make sure that things are staying safe. We're looking at we're trying to figure out ways that we can get security cameras for the front. We've talked about this in the past. It is a security issue. During the tropical storm at 10 o'clock at night, we had teenagers up here with the down power lines that I had to chase out. So
Has there anyone been living up there recently?
we have.
Has anyone been living there recently?
You mean on the land or on the house?
Yeah. I know, no, on the land. I know that it's happened twice in the past.
We've had it this past year.
All right, so-
We had a homeless encampment that we had to disband and get rid of. And it caused a lot of our staff and volunteers a lot of time and energy to clean up that space. And we're still working on elements of it. There are still bags that have to get removed.
Okay, so I want to come back to the council with this philosophical question that we can kind of cut to the chase. Is assuming that the appropriate amount of money and legitimate projects are identified, that we fund this through open space, take it out of our operating budget. Is everyone in thoughts? I'll go through the table, sure. Vanu,
What's the amount that you were talking about?
40,000.
40 out of the,
Oh,
out of the
open
open
space.
space and then 40 out of operating.
No,
Okay.
40 out of open space, 0 out of operating,
Okay.
so that we were able to do a little red line in the operating budget.
Okay.
You're good with that?
I'm happy to gather the project numbers and get those to you at a later date.
2.4 million? 2.8, I was off a little bit. So we have the resources to do this. One conversation at a time. Lauren, so what's your thought on funding this through open space?
So I actually get to work with the Nature Center, and I'm so thankful for all the work Deborah and Andrew and the board. I know there's a lot of projects. I would actually give 45 if we're doing it in open space, because 5,000 of that is going to be designated, hopefully, to making our Nature Center ADA compliant. Deborah proposed this study with NV5, the outside company. So for the $5,000, and it's very hard these days to get fundraising from our local residents. So for the $5,000, I would give that plus the 40 to maintain our land and do projects on the land. And this is forward looking. If we want our seniors to come to our center, our small kids with ADA or access for all, then we should be forward looking in this. So I would do 40 plus the 5. I would do 45 at open space.
Councilman Grossman.
So I do the 40 without even thinking twice. Open space, we don't really have to decide a budget. So if they want 5,000 more for something later on, we can consider that later on.
It's a good compromise.
To build off that, I would leave the 40 in operating, and when projects come up, approve open space as it comes along.
Okay.
That's just me.
I think you're outnumbered with this one, though. Okay, so it sounds like, and if I'm
Are we gonna keep
misspeaking
this?
here, any council member, feel free to correct me. It sounds like, Deborah, we're gonna give, the council will allocate $40,000 to you initially out of open space, okay? Because you've got projects you can identify that we can do that with. We're gonna take it out of our operating budget, and we've got a general sense here that because it can be done anytime in the year using open space by a reading, of an ordinance, that we've got a potential another $5,000, potentially, that's not a promise, on top of the 40.
So as you develop particular projects or want to put in for the 32,000 of stewardship, maintenance, and repair to our land, you'll come to Susan and we will pass an ordinance in open space that allocates the money.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Project will come to us.
Then you guys have to vote on it separately. So the council can't promise a future behavior. They can only promise what they do. They can only deliver what they can do now. So if we give them 40,000 out of open space and through this process in this time frame, that's a transaction. If the council decides a couple of months from now to do another $5,000, that has to be voted on then. Right?
Can I ask one question, please?
Go.
I appreciate what you
Yes,
guys are all
and
saying.
Councilman Benoit.
Sorry. It's hard.
Okay.
Okay, so I appreciate what you guys are
ahead, Vanessa.
saying. I have one quick question, and I know that in terms of
Sure.
this has been a discussion that we've had in the past, and that has to do with the obtaining of security cameras and making sure that it's as cost effective as possible, because we try to work on a pretty shoestring budget here ourselves. So is that something that the town would help with, or is that part of this amount?
So I would suggest, because none of us like discussing or entertaining projects kind of conceptually when it's so specific, is if you've got a project specifically for security cameras, prepare a 1 or 2 page fact sheet for the Borough Council. We'll put it on the agenda. We'll be able to discuss and ask questions about your specifics, and we can go from there. We're not going to say either yes or no to that right now, because we don't really know what you mean by that. We understand what it means to build a new Avery, but we don't know what the security issues are. Go ahead, Vanu, please.
Yeah, so I mean, in principle, I'm fine with taking this allocation of the 40,000 out of the open space. But, I do have a concern that now that you're opening up the floodgates and you're realizing that there's 2.8 million, that this will now lead to the slippery slope argument of, where we will start using it regularly for these kind of things. And I think we need to have the fiscal discipline of keeping the money there for the reasons that we're trying to do it for.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you raise a good point. I think we've been pretty fiscally, extremely conservative with the
Well, it's been a
open space.
difficult slog. We've had many quote unquote threats to that open space money. It only got to the 2.8 because we kind of
Correct,
pushed for
because
fiscal discipline.
We've been very careful with it.
Not all of us.
Councilwoman Dayton?
So we have a security camera.
We have 2 orders in. Yep, but what first one we're waiting for delivery, the second one was just placed.
I asked Deborah and I discussed having the feed actually go to our police department.
Mhm.
Is there any ability of our police department to have a camera added to that order? We have teenagers coming up at night. For those of you who don't know, there was a really good bet I want to do during the pandemic at the Nature Center. We have people crossing chains. We have people living in the center in the middle of the woods. Like we said, we just have to clean out a huge campsite. We have people coming off the Alpine golf course into our center. So there is a security need, and less than we want is a fire up there, less than we want is someone getting hurt up there on all hours. Can we ask police to look into this?
Yes, we can, and just 2 comments on the camera systems. So the current cameras we're purchasing and have purchased will have live feeds into the police department. And so if we put other cameras up, we already have other cameras up and down. So there's no problem with the live feed. These particular cameras are plate readers, significantly more, right? So there would be a separate order and just a separate technology going on, but it's all possible. Jimmy will have a conversation with the police chief about this one. Okay, so
I don't think those go to the department.
I don't know the specifics of Davis Johnson, but they're going somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they're not
Okay, so-
connected to the department.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are.
All right, so that's a whole separate conversation. Okay. So does anyone have any questions for Deborah or Andrew?
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Yeah,
That was paid by corporate.
correct. Andrew, please ask a question.
So thank you, everybody, for all your support. We understand that. We know that you guys supporting, and we appreciate that you gotta do what you gotta do. The piece of confusion that I have, that I would like some clarification is, I kind of follow the discussion of instead of operating, going to open space. Although I'm a little concerned that it's going to potentially impact future open space requests. But what I would like to get some input on is, some of these projects could potentially also be capital as opposed to open space. And so there are really 3 buckets. There is operating, there's capital, and open space. And should we also be looking at a capital set of requests? And again, we would have to regather all the numbers for you guys, because right now, I think that's is that a separate request, or is that part of this hearing as well?
It is
Thank
what
you.
a separate request, Andrew.
So the projects they're really capital, they can also be a part of a capital budget or open space budget, I think. And I'm just looking for some guidance as to which way it's better to handle
Okay,
that.
Susan, why don't you address that, doesn't it? Okay, so essentially, I can answer that. Essentially, Andrew, if we're identifying $40,000 that we're going to take out of open space and earmark it for the nature center capital projects. The money comes out of open space, flows through capital, and then a check gets written to pay for the project.
Okay, so I guess my confusion, Mayor, is that traditionally we got 35,000 operating. We hope, Deborah's asking for a little more, up to 40,000. And that's operating, that's what we always got. And we're hoping to get help with projects. And I kind of, what I'm hearing is that it's going, instead of operating, we just get project funds. So are we in fact just gonna get the same amount, but we're not getting operating, but we're getting the projects covered?
Yeah, Andrew. All right, so hold on, but that's not, so the ask here tonight was $40,000 to $45,000. And what we're saying is,
No, it doesn't matter. Like, we'll handle how we do it.
Yes, that's-
When
that's
you're
what-
asking for
that's-
40,
you're gonna
give you
get,
40,
right.
we're done. Like,
right, that's,
take it easy on you. Don't oversell the floor
Right.
in the sense of, we asked for 40, you guys got 40. How we
Okay.
pay
Yeah.
it back is nothing you have to worry about. The cash is still green, I promise.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you.
So Deborah and Andrew, not to complicate this, and I know Adam just tried to uncomplicate this,
Please.
but essentially, they right now are tight to cover their existing operating budget. The projects that, like the $30,000 project, is only if they raise enough fundraising to go forward. My fear, I'm just gonna put something, is if we say to open space, county, the nature center is gonna do something with $30,000, and then they.
It's hours of space.
Hours.
Don't worry, yeah.
I'm not on.
It's good. I think it's.
yeah, I think we've solved this one.
I would solve it. Let's move on.
Yeah,
We gotta
let's
stay within our-
Okay. All right.
Okay, I think you're good.
Thank you both for coming tonight. We appreciate all the hard work you continue to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great evening.
Right.
Okay, Paul Lurch, you're up. Paul? Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, he's there.
He's there.
Muted.
You have to come up to the microphone, say who you are, because you're a member of the public that was late. We'll give you the courtesy of
This is just operational that I listened to.
name and,
Christine Everard, 39 Leroy
Thank you,
Street, sorry. You have to speak into the mic, otherwise entire conversations are lost on the recording.
okay, thank you. Paul, you there?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, you're on. Yes.
Can you see me
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I had technical difficulties today. I purchased a headset and it makes the Zoom meetings, the clarity so much better. I can hear better. Plus, I'm not in like an echo chamber and it's worked fine. I don't know, maybe it's just Cisco, maybe it's a setting issue, but anyway, we're here.
All right, good.
So
You're here.
you can hear me okay?
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I'd like to do is I'm going to share a screen if that works for you guys. I'm just going to talk a little bit about.
It's very hard to see his screen. I can't see, we're not gonna be able to see his screen.
Oh, you're not.
Let's
So
see
did
what's going
you
on.
have the
See what's
handouts?
going
Did you
Yes,
print
it's good.
those?
You're kind of tiny. Yeah. We have printouts.
Oh, I gave.
Okay, great.
Well,
I'm going to put the screen up anyway, and then you can just follow along on your own page. But what I wanted to do.
So that's the 2022 municipal budget as introduced. Is that the tax collection rate history?
Yeah, it's that in the fund balance, because what I wanted to do is I just wanted to start by going over, the results of last year. I think that's a good starting point. So I think what's important here is not really the top half, although it is because it just shows the collection rate now climbed back to 99%. We had a little bit of a blip, and that could have been COVID, but it's so insignificant that it's really not worth spending much time on. So collection rate's outstanding as usual. So that's positive. when I go down towards the fund balance side of it, I think it's important that we look at what did we end the year 21 with? And 21, we ended with roughly the same surplus as the year before, which means, financially, I think we're coming out of COVID. We certainly had a big tick up in the construction code side of revenues. We were up over 240,000 from what was budgeted. So that's certainly a very big positive. The rest of the budgeted items were pretty much in line. The only thing that was a downturn was still the interest income because, interest rates fell to almost zero. So, we had a little bit of an upside down as it relates to the interest earnings compared to what was budgeted. But overall, we had basically ended with the same amount of surplus. And what that kind of shows me is that seems to be that the level we're sustaining right now. Because we utilized 2.565 million, and we basically generated the same 2.565 again. So right now, I think for this particular point that we're in, we're kind of finding our good spot here as far as fund balance and the utilization of fund balance. And that's right about that 51% utilization. So the only other thing that's going to happen is that as a result of 21, so surplus kind of is stable at that same number. That's why we're suggesting right now we continue to use the same surplus in the 22 budget, not to be too aggressive with it because we seem to be self-generating at this point. One of the big things that happened in 21, a couple of things. Obviously, you're all aware of we had the emergency for the down payment on the Ida storm. So that we're going to have to actually pay for in 2022, which puts a little extra pressure on 2022 as well. 2022, we also have now the first year of the COVID emergency, the 40,000 that we're adding back. That's going to be part of the appropriations in 2022. What I do want to talk about briefly, and then I'll get past 2021, is that tax appeals. So in 2021, we had paid over $818,000 in tax appeals. And that's a sizable amount for the borough. We did have a reserve when we started the year with 950,000. We were able to replenish that reserve back to 526,000, but we're nowhere near what we started the year with. So in an ideal world, we'd like to get back towards that 950. But in order to do that, I would have reduced your surplus even more. So I think at this point, I feel comfortable with the fact that the reserve balance is 950, was 950. It's now 526,000. I know we paid out 818, and if you sit there and say, well, Paul, if we're going to pay another 818, well, that means we're going to have another hit to operations of 300,000. I did have a chance, Susan and I were in contact all day today, going back and forth on the budget. And she had spoken to the assessor, and Susan can jump in if you want to. But I think he indicated that the appeals or the amount of appeals pending is a lot less than it was in the previous year. So the anticipation is that we're not going to have another 818,000 of refunds. So that's why I think the 526 is going to provide us the ability to hopefully pay as we go with the appeals. So, and overall, I think we're coming out of COVID, at least on the borough side, from the revenues, as I said. So now we're starting to get to more of a somewhat of a normal year. We all know that we do have the ARPA money. The first tranche and the second tranche will be coming this year. And I think it's a wise move that as of today, that those monies are going to be used for non-reoccurring expenses. They're not in the budget. They're not being utilized for operating revenue or expenses. And it'd be wise to be able to take those funds and do a non-reoccurring type one-off capital or items similar to that for the use of those funds. Getting into now 2022. So we had a chance, and I looked at everything. I put the budget together in a state document. Went over a lot of questions with Susan today. I think that one of the things is that assessed values borough-wide increased by 6 million. And it's always good to go up. I mean, you know, we know that. Last year we had a better year in assessed values. Believe it or not, we were up 21 million. And the year before was only 2 million. So as long as we're trending up in assessed values is key for you and key for the borough as far as from a tax perspective. So in looking at 2022, I'm going to go to some of the major increase, decrease line items because I think that's a good spot where we can kind of like look at this at this point. So that's going to be major increase, decreases. So when we look at it, and right now what's being presented to you is a tax increase or amount to be raised increase by, you can see $919,000. And the expenditure side's up 1.1, almost $1.2 million. On the expenditure side, we have one-time expenses in here. We have the emergency of 207,000. That's your 167,000 for ITER. And now we're going to have the $40,000 for the COVID emergency. And that'll just happen for the next 4 years. But that should drop off by 167. So you're having an increase there. Debt service is increasing because now we're starting to have minimum pay downs on some of the notes. I know we're in a process of looking and analyzing for a future bond sale, perhaps at the end of 2022, to get into permanent financing and off the temporary notes. And I think that's probably wise in the sense of just from a timing perspective. I think that everybody's predicting that the interest rates will only increase from this point on. So it'd be nice to be able to capture a lot of the temporary financing in a permanent financing vehicle through bonds towards the end of 2022, or at least the fall of 2022. Other major increases really is just the BCUA, and that again that's done to a calculation for the sewer usage. Other than that, it's just police salaries and wages, which is a typical increase for you, 285,000. All the rest of it is pretty much in line, as you can see here. So not a lot of fluctuation there, but it does equate to 1.1 million. On the revenue side, pretty stable on the revenue side. You can see that when we look at the interest on investments, we have the decrease because of the low rates. So we have to budget less. Construction code was up dramatically, as I said. So we're up. We're going to increase the budget there by 175. We have some money on the balance sheet for future payments of debt, and a lot of that came from the premium when the notes were issued. There was a premium attached, and that premium can be used for future debt payments, and that's what we're doing. So appropriations were up 1.1, increase of revenues of 242. It means that we have a net increase right now of $919,000 on the tax side. So what I'm going to do is put up the next slide I'm going to go to is what is the effect on taxation and the budget in a more of a summary format for you. This is something I do every single year. So it shows the total spending side. So as I indicated, it was the 1,161,000. And now I'm comparing the 22 compared to the 21 adopted, and that's 3%, 3.7. And then you can see the tax dollars are going up 919,000. That includes the library and us as the municipality, does not include open space. And that's the 3.6. And the municipal tax rate and what does it do to an average home? The average home is staying at the 785, and the average home is up roughly $178, $180, depending on the rounding. And so it's basically at 3.7% at this point. I will just throw one other thing out there before I open it up to any comments or questions. The last slide is something that I've been providing you as well. This is just a history to give you a little bit of an idea over the last 4 years. What have we done? Where have we come from? And we all know we got through COVID, and I think we got through COVID very well financially. But you can see that in 2019, we basically had less than a 0.7% increase. And then in 2020, we went to 2, we went to 2.8, and now we have 3.7 at this point. And it's really all about trying to sustain the surplus level. And I think at the 3.7%, and I know that might seem high to many of you. Bear in mind the fact that inflation now is running at somewhere around 7-8%. So I think, looking at 3.7%, although it's not what you're accustomed to, it's certainly not running anywhere near that inflation rate. And if you look at this over a 4-year average, you're probably just over 2% on a 4-year average, if you incorporate what you see in front of you. So those are the major highlights that I have. Certainly open it up to any comments or questions.
Okay, I have a question. So how you doing, Paul?
Good, Mayor.
Always a pleasure.
Yes.
I've got a question about the fund balance, the surplus. Okay. I'm sure you just heard the previous conversation about the Nature Center and how we're moving some money around to reduce our operating a little bit by $40,000. So I see here that, so in 2021, we used the percent that we utilized of the surplus was 51.27%.
That's what we plan on using for
Right.
2022, Mayor.
Okay, so my question is, why do we need to be at 51.27? When I look at the history from 2012, we've got 4 years of 50%, a hair above 50%, and going to 52, 51. And the previous years are all at 44 to 48. What would be your opinion if we reduce the amount of surplus we used from 51%, 51.2 to 50%?
Want to go the other way.
Let me show you.
No,
Your recommendation should be to go the other way.
wouldn't it?
You want more surplus, which offsets the next year's taxes.
This year's.
Right.
It's a revenue.
This year, yes.
It's a revenue.
What you're about to do now
Right,
is the opposite, which is
Use more of it.
about 1%.
Yep.
Is about $50,000. 50%, again, it is amazing. Thank you to Paul, thank you to Susan. The world blew up for the past 2 years, and
Yes.
we're almost in as good a position as we were before. That is crazy.
Yep.
I wish I had that at my day job.
So
what I would do-
I have my opposite hat on right now.
Exactly.
Right.
What I would do is, what would be the impact of just adding 1 or 2% add to surplus? What that would do is that would reduce the taxes on our residents during the current years that, like, this is still maybe a tough year for some folks as we move out of COVID. I expect and hope very, very much personally, and for all my other 15,000 residents, that things get a little better. I would ask Paul if it was fiduciary, it was fiscally prudent, if we added another 1 or 2%, which would have really no impact on this overall thing. And that could, in my math, save $20 to $25 off the average resident's taxes next year.
Yeah, listen,
What's your thought about that?
Where does that get generated?
I'm presenting listen, I'm a conservative person by nature. And, in my mind, I'm always looking for the future and saying, well, listen, right now we seem to have a very kind of a balancing point where we're using 2,565,000, and that gets us right to the surplus where we are. Certainly we have one-time expenses in this budget that we won't have next year, hopefully, right? So you do have a little bit of flexibility there. We can only hope that, the rebound continues. I don't think you have anything to worry about if you're going to go another 1 or 2% on that, and then we get to see what happens next year. But just bear in mind that if the surplus starts to drop, then we're going to have to deal with the correction, and that'll be in 2023.
So let me go back to my question again. Let me just finish this thought, Jeff. Right, so in the previous years, our surplus was in some years less than 2 million. And how does that relate to where we are now in terms of the financial stability of the borough?
Well, I think listen.
I understand.
Mayor, overall, I think if you look at the surplus balance, right? I mean, we've gone from 3 million now to 5 million. So we are in a better spot in 2021, 22 than we were in 12, right? And so when you look at it from the
Right,
rating
right.
agencies, they love to see that we have this cash equity. And my point is I'm just trying to say, well, at some point we have to figure out, and it can be a moving target. What are you comfortable with? What are we all comfortable with having in a cash surplus balance, right? Right now, we're kind of like hovering at that 5 million and it seems to be sustainable. But if you get a little more aggressive and you start to utilize more this year, we're just going to have pressure where it'll reduce it next year. And maybe now the new level next year might be 4.8 million. But again, I don't have a major issue. If you want to take 1 or 2 more percent, 100,000 would be 2%, and say that's what we're going to apply towards the
Yeah.
taxes, just to give ourselves a little bit more of a decrease.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, look, I think it's a good idea in principle. I think the problem that we face as a council is it becomes an easy answer for this year, and we go next year, you know what? We borrowed and helped our taxpayers, so we can spend a little more and take it from this. I think what the problem becomes is how do we pull back? We've been going down that path. Our overall surplus the last couple of years, if you look, has been fluctuating. We were at one point at 5.3. Now we're down 300,000. That's not terrible. I'm saying it's not terrible, but if we do this every year and say, well, you know what, let's add another, what will 1% more go? We're adding to our budget. What we need to really keep in mind is how do we not jeopardize our AAA rating? Because whatever we're saving the taxpayers now, interest rates we know are going up. If we start jeopardizing, if we go from AAA to, let's say, even A or AA, as interest rates are going up, we're going to end up actually costing our taxpayers more. And the other thing we need to keep in mind is that $180 that we're talking about increase for the households. We're only a small percentage of the budget. If the Board of Ed is thinking the same way, then we're talking about our households being hit with a tax increase. And I know we can't control it all, but $900. So almost 1,000 on top of the house. So look, I would do that if I could be guaranteed that we won't have this discussion next year of, well, what about another 1%? What about another 100,000 out of it? But I don't know how we not do that because we have short memories.
Well,
We don't commit very well.
So what I would do is and again, follow the laws. I hope one day, you don't look at the total dollar number, because it's an.
I look at the percentage. That's all I'm looking at.
2 years ago, we were at 52. So you could feel good that, 3 years ago or 1 year ago, you went down to 52 to 51. If I saw that number I'm making up a number, 60%, wow, we've been doing something wrong. If equally, we'd be, doing too much at 40%. So we're at 51 now. What we're talking about is going up to 52.27, which is still be lower than where we were 2 years ago.
But I'm not looking at 2 years ago. I'm looking at this whole historic. Generally, up until a couple of years ago, we were between 44 and 48, as the bear started to say when he was doing this backwards. But we've set, this is my fear for next year, is we've set this new high, and that's where we want to live.
What I would do is I like your point and fall into get back to this. I think I asked this question last year. Directly to your question. What is the difference? How much would we, can I just buy Dan a new Ferrari for $5 million? Would that still be a AAA rated? So how much can we borrow at AAA? And then my next question would be, if we went down to AA, does that matter at all or not? So at least the first one would be, how much can we borrow before we lose that AAA rating, which I agree is the most important part because it gets expensive if we become
Cross that
B
line.
minus.
Okay, so, all right, so, Go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, when we do a bond sale, and we're getting rated. They look at a lot of things. They look at your management, they look at the trend of your surplus. And
Right.
they look at how much you have outstanding. And I think, Paul, it would help if you explained to the governing body exactly how surplus is regenerated. Because that, thank you. We're also, I don't know, if it's a 2-year budget cycle. One of the ways you regenerate is by budget operations, like lapsing surplus from 2 years ago. So right now our surplus is from 2020, and that's how we did it. And then you anticipate what your surplus is in this year's budget from the previous time that we lapsed. So Paul, miscellaneous revenue not anticipated, what other items go in there?
Well, like you said, Susan, it's a combination of a bunch of things, but it's 1 year on the revenue side. It's 2 years on the appropriation side. So once the second year cycles off, whatever we didn't spend on the spending side generates the surplus. We have a non-spending reserve fund collected. All of that stuff kind of goes in, but I think kind of looking at, when I go back and I look at that fund balance exhibit, and and I listened to everybody, and I think a lot of good comments were being made. And if I go back and just try to look at this for a second, and I go back to the old years, in the old years we were using, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, 45, 48, 46. I think what that kind of told me, because surplus kept going up, right? That in fact that we were generating more than the 40, 44, 45% that we were utilizing. So we were actually generating at a higher percentage rate. And we were probably generating somewhere around 51%, right? So we know that in those upper 40s, we even though we had less surplus, we were utilizing less than we were generating on an annual basis. Once we got to that 50, 52, 51, you can see that we were still generating surplus. We got to the high of 5.3, but then the numbers started coming down. So when you look at that, you can see 52, 53%. We're using more than we're actually earning on a current year basis. So my point is you just want to try to find some kind of equilibrium. And I think looking at the chart, we seem to be pretty close to it. I mean, whether it's 1% here or there, I don't think it's going to make or break you. But you do have to, as a councilman just said, you do have to recognize the fact that, if we go to 52, which, another 100 grand, I don't see that as the end of the world, honestly, from a rating perspective, from all the other questions that were put forth. But, if 2022, we don't generate that basically 2,600,000 or 2,700,000, we're going to start to dip surplus, which means that you'll just have more pressure in 2023. But it's a balancing act. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
So let's go around the table just to get a sense of, Dan, what are your thoughts?
Sir, before you do that, just make sure that Paul, I think your math's better than mine. I thought 1% is $50,000.
It is 50,000. 1% is 50, right? So if you want 100 grand, it's 2%.
That's 50. What we're talking about is maybe $100,000. So that, I apologize, Mayor.
We have another question. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Before you go around the table, I've spoken to Susan in the past, has always been like proud of the AAA rating, and I heard what Paul said. I just wanted to hear what Susan's thoughts are on this. That's all.
Well, my thoughts are that, in the past, we haven't raised taxes all that much. So sooner or later, it catches up to you. And that's what's happening now. And with the inflation aspect and the added emergencies and revenue loss, all of this coupled together makes what we have today. So
where does that leave you with your opinion?
Well, it could put more pressure, but with the 167,000 probably dropping off. And when we go out to bond, we know that next year we have a drop off in our bond principal. And then it'll probably be almost neutral, because when we go out to bond, we'll have more, we'll replace it with other bond principal. But I do think that we should try our best to be conservative. But like what Paul said, if you if you want to go up to the 2665, fine, but know that it could put pressure on next year, contingent upon what happens this year. Because inflation is really going up.
Lauren?
So I just want to remind everybody, I'm not sure, I think it was 2019. We had a decision to utilize some of our surplus into our road program. Is that 2019 or 2020? We took surplus and we put some money into roads.
I think you're thinking of that wrong. Because surplus, we only anticipate next year's budget.
Okay, but we did take some surplus and utilize some of it. But I remember we had a whole discussion about
Last,
dropping our surplus down and using some more of it
last
to
year,
offset. Is that last year, Dan? So we might have generated surplus that's not here because we actually used it. Is that right?
I don't think so.
No.
It would still be listed.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
But we switched. Anyway, okay. Just want to clarify.
It is.
No, I need to clarify the questions. That's why I'm asking the question.
Dan, your thoughts? In terms of using a little bit more surplus, 1%, whatever the number is?
Creating.
I mean,
Creating?
Using more.
3.7 is a lot. Got to do something to get that down. I'm okay with the 1%.
Again, the 1% is the 50,000, 2%, so
2%, I'm sorry, my bad.
Jeff?
So when we say 1%, that means percent utilized going from 51.27 to 52.27 if it's 1%?
roughly, I think the way I do this is
Let's,
about $50,000.
let's do 50 or 100. The
Right,
percent
and
sort
then
of-
just so, then what I did in my head, just to understand in real life, take 100 divided by 5,000 households. That means the person's tax bill goes down 20.
The bottom line is that I personally would like to see 2019, that percentage utilized as the ceiling that we never go above. So whatever the amount that keeps us at or below that, I'm comfortable with. Once we go above that, we're putting ourselves at a point where we're gonna start to really deteriorate our surplus. So I don't know how that translates to numbers, but we said before, let's focus on percentage because that's really what this is
So,
about.
so the difference there based on your choice of is
1.4%.
1.4, so the ask is for
Maximum.
1. Right, so the ask is 1, so it's below your threshold.
70K, something
Right.
like that.
Is that an okay?
As long as it doesn't put us above that number, I'm okay.
Lauren?
So I know that our assessed, the assessed values of houses sort of went down this year. I'm hoping as we go forward that we actually have that number increase, which I also think will help.
Sorry.
It does help as CFO, you know, again, we have a lot of new building, a lot of new residents coming in, a lot of flipping from small houses to larger houses on lots. So I'm hoping that also will help generate for tax revenue and surplus. I'm fine. I agree with Adam. If we can offset anything in taxes in the pockets of our taxpayers, we should be doing it. If we have the flexibility to, it won't hurt our credit rating. But I do want to hear from our CFO who's crunching numbers next to me.
Well, I
Yes.
get the point now. but I'm
Okay.
fine.
I do defer. If Susan disagrees with this as an idea, then I want to hear that.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. It's not, it will make a small impact, but, it will make a small impact, as Adam said, and that's what you have to decide.
Okay. All right, Vanu? Vanu?
So I prefer the Paul's conservatism and, you know, I don't think we should be raising the surplus. You know, I think $25 is whatever valiant, but, you know, I don't think that's where it should come from. I think it should come from being more fiscally responsible with the budget, not with playing games with the surplus.
Adam?
Step up the team. Playing with the number, it's actually a 15% reduction in the taxes that we provide. So it's actually a huge number. And then, so I would go with 2. I trust Councilman Grossman if it's 1.4. My point is, if there's a year to help the residents a little bit because coming out of COVID, this would be this year. If it was 2 years from now, I'd be, again, I'm good with.
So just for clarification, we're all,
The 2 that Dan said, but I'm equally, if we could get more 2s, great. If not, the 1.4 that Jeff is a great. So,
I'm a 2. I just want to make sure Susan's with me.
so 2.
okay, go ahead. No, we're waiting. Is the council trying to decide philosophically if we're going to increase this?
I'm okay with increasing. So there's an appetite for that, fine. Paul said that's all right. Susan said that's all right. But yes, I'm curious, but the details, whether we're going with
Okay,
1.4 or the 2.
so it sounds like, it sounds essentially like 1.4 is carrying the day.
Well, no, we're.
Well, there's 3 2s and Julie's just waiting on whatever math.
Oh, go ahead, answer the question.
Do you want to know what the new?
It can get recorded.
No one wants to hear what I have to say anyway.
Paul,
Yes,
you there?
yes, I'm here.
Susan,
If they take off 100,000 from the amount to be raised by taxation, I'm getting 0.0648 for the municipal tax rate.
It should be about
I just want you to double
$160 on
check
average.
it.
I didn't run
How
it.
much?
About 160. I just did it very quick. If you do 1%, 100 grand.
Oh, so instead of 180, we're gonna go down to about 160. We're gonna have to redo this.
I was just gonna take
Okay, so
$100,000.
where are we?
$100,000.
I took 100,000 off
That's it.
26.28. Yeah,
So does that answer your question?
it's like $20 about.
That's like
out
20
there
bucks.
Off of the taxes. Right now, they're at 180.
That's right.
It's 15% reduction, what we would.
and again, if the house is double the amount of value and it's 360, now double the amount
The
of,
average person,
right. That's 40 off.
So we're at the 1.4? That gets us, that's the 100,000?
no, it's
Well,
No, no.
Okay, so.
Okay, so instead of
Get you
5,
questions.
yeah, so 5110 minus
Can I ask a
5086.
fundamental question now?
$24. You're very close.
okay with number.
Okay, so let's just be focused for a second, just to make, so the 100,000 represents what percentage?
The percentage went down was from 6.51% to 6.48%. And then the tax per home on 785,000 went from, for the municipal portion only, 5,110, and it would become 5,086, which is a savings of $24 per house.
Okay, Lauren, go ahead, your question.
So this really is for Paul or Susan. As we continue to budget, we could do something like this, which is an overall policy decision. But does it make sense then? We try to make our operating budget, if something says 10, we put it to 5. If something says 40, we put it to 35. Is it better to leave more, I'm going to call it wiggle room in the budget that possibly we don't spend that generates surplus? Or is it better to take it out in the operating budget and make a tighter budget to begin with?
That just has an effect down
How
the
you put in the
road.
budget
So,
and not spend it.
yeah, so what happens is if you want to go tighter on the budget, that you'll have the effect this year of having less in tax dollars you're going to raise. But after the 2-year cycle ends, it just means you're going to generate less surplus again. So it's a double-edged sword in a sense, So, again, I think I come back to this balancing act as to, where are we? Do we have adequate appropriations? I think we do on the spending side. And the question is, what do we generate on each cycle versus compared to what we utilized? And I think that's kind of where I am again, back to that type of scenario.
Thank you.
What about, is there any room to maneuver in the reserve for the uncollected taxes?
That's a non.
I asked that question too.
It's a non-spending appropriation. That's one of the ways that we regenerate surplus.
Okay.
And it's a reserve for uncollected taxes. So, Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would stay away from that. And I think that
Yeah.
small incremental increase is what's providing you, again, the generation of surplus. So it's kind of like it's a triangle, and we keep pushing from three different sides, right? The reserve side, the budget spending side, and then the revenue side. And they're kind of all intertwined. So, the reality is, again, I mean, I think it's just, the simplest way is, if you're looking for that, whatever that is, 50 or 100,000, I mean, at this point, I would not look at the appropriation or reserve. I would just go to the revenue side on the use of surplus and then see what happens in 2022, and then we'll have to reevaluate it again to determine what is the even keel position, the balancing point.
Okay.
And there's only one other thing I wanted to point out. The interest on investments deposits, I wrote down what happened to our interest rate for the money that we're getting in the bank. And in January 2022, we're at 0.180%. Where January 2020, before COVID, we were getting 1.942% on our money in the bank. So that really took a hit. And that's why our revenue is down for.
Right. I would love to ask, the finance committee that we have, like, to look at other opportunities. I know, obviously, there's certain things you could do as a government. I know we have a member of our town that's like an expert. He does municipal finance for a living. I'd love to reach out to him. I think he's a member of the finance committee. But let's see if there's other things we could do. I think I was at a meeting that you could actually loan money to other municipalities for a short term at a different rate. But I don't know about you guys, but I try to keep as little money as possible in my 0 interest bearing account. You could do a basic, treasury bill fund, again, I'm saying personally, and do better. We should not be keeping millions of dollars in a 0 interest bearing account. Let's ask the finance committee if there's other ways we could spend that money.
Certain places you can deposit.
Agreed.
Paul, do you have any comments about that?
Those things are definitely true. I mean, I think, the thing that you have to be careful of is that you need fluidity because, we're collecting and paying the county every dollar, the school every dollar, and our operating expenses. We are limited by statute what we can invest in. We have to be very conservative because the last thing that we could do, and, is obviously we want to secure our assets. Treasuries are absolutely an option. There's no doubt about that. And you can borrow back and forth from other municipalities if you wanted to. Although, the note rate right now, I mean, I don't know, it might be around 1.5%, maybe something of that nature, 1%. But those certainly are some options. I think those are big picture, long-term type options as opposed to dealing with the immediate budget at hand.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do we have clarity of where we are with the surplus, Susan? You're clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right, where else?
What do we decide on?
Whatever equates to the 100,000.
Well, 100,000 would get you to 53.6%.
100,000.
So I don't know that you want it to climb past that 52.6.
Oh, no, we don't.
That would mean we'd have to just take 70 grand. 70 grand would get you to the basically 52.6.
There you go. It's a 70,000.
So
70,000.
70,000 would be the number if you want us. We'll readjust it and add $70,000 more of surplus.
So less than.
Yes.
You said.
Okay,
don't
it's
go past
something,
it.
it's something,
Be on 70.
it's an effort.
You want.
Okay, any other questions for Paul? Paul, do you have anything you want to say to the council or us, or?
No, I think, listen, I know this is a healthy debate, and I understand, listen, I say this, for a long time. I've never met a governing body that wanted to raise taxes, and you're trying to do your responsible due diligence, and I appreciate that. You know, I'm looking at it from a conservative perspective and trying to look at it from a long-term sustainability side as well. And I think you're really doing a great job. I mean, I think the bottom line is you sustain yourself at the 5 million. I think that's a healthy number. I think that you've held the line on taxes over the last 4 years, you know, in that roughly two and change percent, even with the number we had presented here. So I think you should be commended as a group because the pressure out there now is, you know, with cost of living at 7%, I don't see this getting any easier going forward.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, Paul, thank you
so
very much.
Paul.
We appreciate
Thank
you being
you.
here tonight.
Thanks
And
again.
I just want to also say thank you to Susan.
All right, have a good night.
Good night.
Okay,
Michael, so you want to?
no, we're gonna move on to the clerk now, and then we're gonna, clerk will probably be pretty quick. What?
That Michael goes with Sass.
Yeah. Go ahead. Omar, it's all you.
Now I got to turn the pages.
Chairs change.
Aw. So who's taking notes?
Oh. Hear me into the mic? Yep, can you hear me? Great, great. All right, so thank you for having me this evening. I would just like to say, the clerk's office in 2021 was able to navigate through the challenges that the pandemic had presented. We were able to maintain a level of service that our residents expect from our office. In July of 2021, we hired a new administrative assistant, Jeannie. She hit the ground running. She is an excellent addition to our office. And also, July of 2021, we helped launch the current website. In my budget this year, there's no increase in the operational budget. I would like to request a loader or the vacancy to hire a loader that can be used in between the clerk's office and the finance department. That will be a person who will work 3 days out of the week and 5 hours per day. 16 hours, $17 per hour. Yeah. And that person will maintain the boards and committees in my office. They'd be responsible for uploading content to the website, to coordinate street opening refunds and parking permit refunds, and maintain files in the clerk's office, and also with record management. To move also to the capital budget.
Wait, Omar, stay in salaries and wages.
Sure.
For a second. Let's do one at a time.
Okay.
So have you coordinated with our CFO on the floating position?
Yes.
Did it?
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Omar, you might not know the whole picture yet. What we did was before the floating position was allocated between the assessor's office, my office, and Omar's. So I asked the assessor's office, Jeff, if he needed that part of the hours that were going to be allocated, and he said no. Then I asked Omar, and he told me what he needed. And then the balance of that, I was putting towards my budget to increase a position to more hours from part-time to full-time. That's what I was doing.
Didn't we hire a floater last year?
No,
We never hired that position.
Okay.
It was budgeted though, right?
Yes.
Was budgeted. I know I fought against it last year because I wanted it part-time. Okay, so are you in coordination or is there a discrepancy here? Because I'm not clear. I'm sorry.
Floater's in here.
the floater
But
was,
but Susan also has a different thing for floater. So I want to know if the two of them are aligned in the budget.
okay. 3 days, 5 hours, and it comes out to that amount. Previously, it was about 30,000 something in there for the floater, which was, there it is, 30,940. So we're taking some of that 17,000 out. I was putting that towards the funding to offset in part some of the cost to increase the purchasing assistant to a full-time position. However, it will still not be totally enough. It might be another $10,000 in the budget.
Okay, well, we need to see that
Well, it
because.
is, you're gonna see it in mine, and I'm talking to you about it now.
Okay,
It's in here.
It's, this is in there, and in my side, it rolls up into the whole budget, and the numbers are, just so everybody knows, the numbers are already in what Paul and I shared with you today.
Okay.
So these numbers I put in, if we have to make adjustments, we can.
Vanilla?
Yeah, I'm fine with the floater. I just am wondering where on
No, not,
finance salary it shows up. Where does it show up on this, on finance?
if you go, I know it's kind of, you do finance side too. If
yes,
you go to my section of finance. If you go to the salary and wage page and look at.
Hey.
Look, there's two pages, because I do that when somebody's asking for more funding, usually.
Here. Vacancy, that one?
It is.
No, that's the part-time purchasing agent.
Yeah, no,
T, the part-timer?
no, that's not it.
So I see the 17,000, going to tax collection.
This is.
Is that the one?
Trying to find it.
The vacancy prorated 9 months, 34,000.
It should say
Four.
37,000.
34,025.
34,425. And then the 17 going to tax collector.
Parentheses 17.
No, that's different.
Taken out of tax collector now?
Wait, I have to
Did we
find
just say
it.
this?
We did. Oh, oh, here it is. Here it is. It's not, no name is there. It's prorated for 6 months, purchasing assistant, 32.5.
So totally, it's 45.
Well, the annual salary for that position would be 65,000.
So we are still also sharing it with tax assessor.
Not really. It's absorbed, some of the funding from that Florida position was absorbed into this 32.5. So really, and then I offset other money in my budget,
Susan,
This is a 40-hour work week, Susan?
35.
35.
I'm still having a problem seeing where, so where is the,
Okay, if you go to page 9
okay,
and you're on the salary and wage worksheet. Okay, so this is what I did. I looked at the Florida positions because I knew there was an open spot. So to try to not inflate the budget more than it already is, and there is a business need for what I'm doing. I asked Omar how much time he needed as in that position. And he said 3 days, 5 hours a day. I calculated that out to 17 hours, not 17, $17. And that's what's in his budget, the 13,000. So then I figured out what would be.
where does that show?
It shows in Omar's.
That's
budget.
in part-time on page 5 of Omar's budget.
Yes. So let's go through it in more detail, because I know that this.
All right, so the 13,260 in Omar's is for this part-time floater?
Yes, and that was from last year. If you look at last year's budget, there was, I think, $30,000,
Yes.
30,940 in his budget for full-time.
Right.
Okay, that was to be shared between 3 departments. So I was trying to find money to offset what I wanted to do.
And so the other 17,000 is,
It's absorbed, but there's still a little extra because I tried to come up with a fair salary and wage. For the position that we're looking at, they range from anywhere up to, it could be up to 80-something thousand dollars.
so are we
That's
suggest,
more of a city.
are we suggesting the same person be,
I'm suggesting the person go from part-time to full-time, especially
and will
because
be
of
working,
her legal expertise and then,
but that person will be also working in the clerk's office?
no. There's 2 different
Just talk
levels
about the
of.
flo- just some-
Talk about the floater alone,
Okay, the floater is at a different skill set and level.
right?
That person would paid at a rate of $17 an hour.
What's their total salary absorbed by both departments?
For each department.
What's the total salary? of
What's the total?
floater?
The total salary of the Florida was 30,000.
Okay, and,
Fine.
and how much,
No, but that's yours, and then Omar's is another 13?
No.
No.
I took the 30,000 minus the
Divided it by-
13, you get 17,000. There's extra added into my
Okay,
budget.
so-
I took what I could,
Mhm.
and then I needed a little
Okay.
more.
No, okay, I get
You
the
it.
13, I get the 13,000, I see that on Omar's. I'm saying there's the 17 for your department, is that added into another salary? Is that what you're saying?
I'm absorbing it into that 65,000.
But there'll be two different people for that 65,000.
There'll be one person there, and then the person in my department will
Right,
go. to-
okay. So, and where is that number? The
That
actual,
number is prorated for 6 months. I don't plan on doing that.
so that's the 45,000,
No, it's 32,
35,
5.
okay.
And then the person is also in the part-time section until for the first 6 months at 10,608. And then obviously next year it would be at the 65. Does everyone understand what I did?
Yes.
Sure.
So I understand. That means next year we'll be looking at 65, not 32, and we'll be looking at 20, not 10.
Well, this is really, in this year's budget, it's really 32 plus 10, so it's really 42. But I'm hoping that next year, that some of the expenditures that are in this year's budget that we had to raise to taxation because of the emergencies we had with the tropical storms, it will be dropping down by 167,000. That was a one-time appropriation. So the only thing that'll stay is that 40,000 for the next 5 years for the revenue.
What's
The 207 extra that we didn't have.
What's the 10?
The 10 is the part-time wages for the first 6 months. Sorry, Omar, I'm taking part of your.
Can I just say that Omar does a really good job with our residents, and if Omar says he needs assistance in his office, I would hate for him to be short-handed, because Omar is incredibly customer facing. Our residents interrupt his workflow daily, and so do council. And I really think that if he needs assistance with the website, which we all know needs to be better run and managed, and elections and everything else that he tirelessly does, I'm okay giving him a floater. I'm still very confused about your department, but we'll get to you next. But as far as Omar's request for floater, I'm a yes.
Okay, so any other, Omar, continue then.
Okay. I'm just
So,
saying.
that was more so,
Part-time
asked for
employee.
Right.
Omar, can't hear you, Omar.
I'm sorry, that was more so my ask for from salary and wages standpoint, the operational standpoint.
Do we need to hear from everyone else on that issue?
Going to get to that, we want to finish this.
Okay.
Okay, so my second ask, if you would like for me to move forward, if there's any questions about the operational budget at this moment in time. Okay, so I want to move forward with the capital plan, or my ask for the capital plan. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm asking, not used to it too much of being in this position. I'm asking for an upgrade to, number one, the council chambers and the Wilson Room, because we are doing hybrid meetings. I wanted to upgrade the equipment here, in both this room and over in the Wilson Room. I think we can better utilize this TV here. I think, I have for the upgrades in the council chambers, a device to allow for streaming and for you to be able to see presentations, be able to see, who's in the virtual world from this screen right here.
Hey, Omar. So I think I remember the mayor is talking about that. You were talking about like Wilson being a little bit different. Just so I know with your ask, if we were not going to do something with Wilson in that regard, and we were just going to focus on this area, yeah, you know where I'm going. the ask of the money for just
Council
this.
chambers, yes.
Is that what you're interested in?
I would like to proceed with both projects, but if I can proceed with one of the two, it's definitely up to the governing body to decide that. But yes,
No, go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
I know because we had some upgrades over the summer when we're preparing for the hybrid model here. There's just, a few items for this council chambers that we would need to, have it, to be, better utilize the facility for, to have I guess, a better user-friendly, more, engaging, meetings.
So the people at home
Yes.
would be able to, what do you, hear us better? to
Yes,
see
absolutely.
more, See
One,
us?
one of my main goals, when I was speaking with the vendor, we only hear the meetings through the TV. I would prefer, if we can probably get better audio, maybe upgrades to the speakers. I think that would be, more beneficial for the council to be able to have
The
dialogue with
speakers would
residents.
help. I agree, yeah. Just so I also, one last question for you, is that I know that when the planning board presented back on Saturday, that, there was discussion about the town worker who works for them, that, she wasn't as comfortable at that point with putting the stuff on hybrid. Just so I'm clear, if we go for these type of upgrades, would it be the type of thing that all of your workers would be trained in?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, it wouldn't be just utilized for, mayor and council meetings, it'd be, utilized for, all boards and committees, who wish to come in, conduct their meetings in council chambers. So, I don't think it's, something extremely hard to do. I'm more than willing to, take the time out, and train anyone who would like to use the council chambers for hybrid model meetings. I have no problem with that.
So we're talking about upgrading the council chambers, so the council can do it, can use it, the planning board, the board of adjustment.
Board of
um,
Health.
Yeah, everyone in terms of, and then we'll forego upgrades to the Wilson room for now, and just focus on the council chambers, okay? Everyone good with that?
This is the council.
This is the
chambers.
council chambers. We're not going to do any upgrades to the Wilson room,
Just wanted to make sure.
okay? Lauren?
So, one of the things that I want to see though is I want to find a way that our residents can see the things we're working on. I don't know what kind of technology upgrade that is, but again, like I know we sometimes share screens, but but we've discussed this, like really improve that angle of technology.
I'm
They can
glad.
follow along.
I'm actually glad you brought up that point. In the specs of the proposal, for instance, when Jeff Zinn came in, Burgess, they had their items on their laptop they weren't really able to share. Well, the device that's going to be provided, there's you could do it sharing your laptop, whatever you have going on through the device, and it's wirelessly done. So whatever is being, presented on his screen, it could be mirrored and then
Yes, let's look for that.
spread out to the
Exactly.
rest of the.
Does anyone have any more questions for Omar?
Were you on council when we upgraded the Wilson room and we got the money through?
Wait, say that again?
Were you on council when we got the money for the Wilson room through either Comcast or Optimum?
Okay, so if one of these
None of that?
organizations was to come along and give us a grant to do that, then we'd have a whole separate conversation, right?
There was a Cablevision? Was it Cablevision? One of
Talking
them.
about your franchise fees?
Yeah, someone gave us money to do that room. Those, the Sony cameras were brand new.
Yes, everyone keeps talking about Fios. I bet
Okay,
you.
One of those.
So I
You
actually.
use those funds for that.
wait a minute, wait, okay, so one at a time. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Now, to Councilman Park's point, franchise fees typically could be used for those purposes, for broadcasting. I mean, usually it's to the cable channel, but you might be able to use that for that purpose just because new wave of technology.
Lauren?
So one of the things that I will say Omar has endured these past 2 years is that his office is not climate controlled. You know, the clerk is responsible for all of our documents, for all of our official forms. His office has contraptions in it various times throughout the year, whether it's an actual heaters he has to bring in, or this air conditioning unit, I swear from like another century. I would request in the Capitol that we actually get him either an upgraded AC/heater unit for his window, or, you know, have our maintenance come in there and really find a solution. Because again, it's not just Omar who's suffering, but our most valuable documents are in there.
Okay, so I mean, the council approved, we've hired the engineer, Pannoni, to review all of this. The clerk's office is part of that conversation in terms of the furnaces, the HVAC, do we use split air units? So that process is underway.
Okay, I just want to
Okay.
make sure, because the things I've seen in that.
Understood. Right, Mike? It all makes sense, right? Okay. All right, any other questions for Omar?
Well, he has to do Board of Health.
Well,
Yes, we're
Okay.
not, we're not done. We're not done.
Oh, you're not done?
No, he's
it
not.
could have been done if everybody said, yes, we're done, and we move on.
So,
You keep it, but if everyone's good with his budget, we're good.
You're good on the, I'm good on Board of Health.
well,
Go ahead, Omar.
well, with the Board of Health, do you want me to go? Okay, so there haven't been any, no, there's no change.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
I don't want to sit here and ramble.
Right, so, okay, all right,
good.
everyone focus, please. Is everyone
Hold on.
good with the clerk's office? Vanu, you have a question?
You said there's no change to the Board of Health?
Well,
Because
there was a increase in the HARP contract, 2% increase.
increase or decrease?
Increase.
The reason I'm asking is on here, it shows a decrease to the O&E.
There was a decrease, I believe, to the Mid-Bergen Regional contract, but
Susan, can I ask? Susan?
I'm sorry.
It's
Susan?
Susan.
Sorry.
Yeah, one at a time
Quick,
here.
no,
please.
I'm talking to, yeah.
Okay, time
Susan,
out. Who's speaking?
I'm talking.
Go ahead.
But this is a question that, so Susan, Board of Health, it shows on here a $48,000 decrease on here.
Let me see.
Health,
That's
page
gonna be-
5.
No, the major budget increases and decreases.
Let me see. I have to look at what I did. I think we did take.
It's a $48,000 decrease.
Because I think that there was a shared service in here that we, is that right?
Yes, I think
That went down.
Mayor.
you're referring to the shared service with Leon.
So it did go down, that is.
It went down.
Okay, so it's not that there wasn't a change, there was a change.
Question.
Go ahead, Dan.
Right below that
Yeah.
is,
I can't hear you, Dan.
right below that is Little Ferry Shared Service. The registrar shared service we did with them. What happened there? The decrease. Do we still need a registrar?
I could chime in on that. I believe that is, so we're looking at potentially looking to propose change because the registrar through Little Ferry is retiring at the end of May. Speaking with the administrator in Little Ferry, they're looking to fill the position as is. And with the contract that we have, or the shared service agreement we have with them, we have to afford them the opportunity to fill it. So either way, it would continue as it was in terms of dollars. We have to afford them the opportunity to fill the position.
Gotcha.
Yeah, right now, we would be continuing, just correct to the original amount that we have contracted.
Okay, Dan, go ahead.
That was it.
Okay, any more questions for Omar?
Whoops.
No more questions from Omar? Congratulations, Omar, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Right
Thank
back
you for
here.
having me.
Thank you. The budget portion of this discussion is,
Talk to you up on the next one.
Yeah, let's go down so I can see everything.
go ahead, go down.
It's hard to do like this.
Yes.
I'll see you later.
That's why the council chambers is nice for this stuff.
Well, no, that's
All
a
right.
capital.
That's capital.
Take my mask.
I tried for you, my friend.
Okay, but further down.
Whatever
I
tube
would
thing.
Pass this around. So that everybody can see.
I'll get it.
Quick look what's involved in purchase. So I'll start with the mayor.
Oh, this is a shared document.
This is a document to pass around so you can see all of the items that are involved.
Oh, this is from Musco Lighting, and it's an example of what happens in a particular, for a project.
Right. And then just give it back to somebody. That I have.
Finance.
You could eat out of the budget.
Definitely. Owners roof, craziest contracting pipe thing, water's coming in, and like, there's like a signed sealed document next to that. I'm like, you've seen it.
I've seen.
So, by the way, we didn't discuss the website with Omar.
We did not
We need to discuss it. Point,
talk about it.
whether we're adding in operating.
Right, that's what we have to do. All right, Susan, you guys ready? Gentlemen, moved on to finance. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, so consistently over the years, the finance department continues to take on more work. It's ever changing environment. We had, COVID issues, with our budget. We had to increase, some of the line items, plus do a lot of the work. Adam can attest to that with the meal program. We had a sinkhole in town, which was an emergency situation, more bonding, more expenditures. Then we keep having storms, Isaias and Ida, after storms. All of that increased our workload due to the emergency planning. We had to get bond counsel involved with bond ordinances and properly fund for these unplanned events. And then during the year as well, we have other items that come up where we need to look at our budgeted items. I have to certify funds. And obviously, we can't spend money if the funds are not appropriated. There's no spending source we can't spend. We presently, right now, the purchasing assistant and myself have been reviewing thousands of pages of documentation as it relates to the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund. It's ever changing, they're ever changing the guidelines both federally and on the state level.
Hey,
And
can
they're
I
very
just say
stringent
thank you to
guidelines.
Kathy McClure for that? That's excellent
Yes,
work, and
we
she's
did
been,
it through the background in assisting in all. So myself as an accountant, her as a lawyer, it's a really good team. So then we again transitioned with turnover in our resource department. So there were some goals that were set forth in my budget last year that I did not get to because there's learning curve involved. And
It's
I
a very
plan
good
on
point.
moving forward with the HR manager on some of these items that would be elimination of antiquated procedure on tracking vacation, holiday person, sick and contact. See. And that would also help with our contractual. We've had an issue filling the position of payroll clerk, senior tax clerk. It's been vacant for a good part of the year. One of the individuals on my staff has been working overtime to accommodate that function. We were fortunate enough, as you know, a couple of days ago, we introduced the new deputy treasurer. We were lucky to fill this position. We're a certified municipal finance officer. She recently became certified in December. And most of the work that she's presently doing in the borough that she's currently employed is almost exact what our deputy treasurer was doing here. And she was eager to learn more of some of the work that I do that I can transition to this individual. We are I did look at a escrow module, software package when I went to the meet a couple of years ago. With the local bank. It looked like a good, accounting system for escrow. Or I'm not gonna change it right now because the new deputy treasurer is very familiar with the current bank that we have. So until she learns that and gets used to it, I always think that it's best not to change things until you're familiar with what we have. We're always enhancing efficiencies. One of the things I would like to do is we have a centralized revenue process where I think that instead of getting daily deposits every day from we still have to put the checks to the bank within 48 hours. But I would like to do an accounting on the books monthly or weekly or whatever, where we give each department like an Excel spreadsheet to update, and we don't do it in piecemeal constantly. One of the goals that we started last year when our purchasing was, is we tested the Edmunds acquisition module by seeing what attach and scan as far as quotes go, so that it would be more efficient when our auditors to do our audit.
Great.
And we tested it, we could do it, it's just rolling out.
And that's just what you were saying.
We should add that we have developed probably nearly 50 standard operating procedures so that people can pick up and do the work should someone leave. It just makes it so much easier for everyone to, and we also, I have my department cross training with each other so that we have backups should someone be out. The public contracts law, it's very complex. It's probably one of the hardest, aspects of in the finance department. There's a lot of red tape and it's very stringent. And in the past 2 years, maybe 3, we've been, that's our only audit findings. And it's extreme internal controls that need to be implemented and stay implemented. We're trying our best. And previously, we used to have the departments maintain the quotes, the documentation, and then call on them to provide it to us. And when we were doing our audits, we found that we were missing some items. So now what we're doing is, and I guess around that reminder, we have started that checklist, and we're going to make sure that all the documentation that's required to be compliant with the local public contracts laws, we know it's done and we're compliant instead of waiting for the order to be done. So of course, in fact, Councilman Park called me today when a resident called. I got to know many of our residents, and we always try to serve them with outstanding customer service. We try our best to help them to understand, what's going on or why they're being charged delinquent interest, should they be charged something. We are continually increasing awareness about our ACH and WIP programs. And I'm one of the probably only tax collectors that actually send an email to every resident that's going to have a debit from their checking account and set up a program for that, so that they know when I'm going to be pulling the funding for the taxes due, and then there's no surprises, and it helps us so that we don't have returned, tax pays. So constantly and continually, I'm trying to streamline, improve efficiencies, and keep moving towards a paperless environment. I have way too many office. And my main thing though really is enhancing and continuing to ensure that our internal controls are there so that I safeguard the municipality's assets, and ensuring compliance and always looking for a way to reduce costs. And I do that. And recently, I think I saved the borough over $100,000, but we saw something trying to come through, and I said something about My role as CFO is definitely to assist all of the governing body and the administrator, the HR manager, department heads, employees, and residents on all the. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Oh, and I got more.
Go ahead, Susan. Susan, go ahead.
All right. So should I talk about my budget justification? Do you want to ask questions about that part, or do you want to go on? I'll go on. Okay.
Do you have a question at this moment before?
No, I did want to say that as a council person, you are incredibly helpful to me, but to the residents, this is, number one issue, of course, paying taxes. To get a 99% collection rate on the taxes is unbelievable. Your department, everybody who works there with the tax collection has done an outstanding job. And, we're able to be in surplus and discussing surplus because of this efforts. And obviously, I was just going to reiterate, which I gave Adam a wink before, as you heard Adam say earlier, one of the top 5 priorities will be to find efficiencies with technology. And I think you're achieving that and then some.
Thanks.
So thank you for that work.
Right, so no questions.
No, but huge
That's all I wanted to know.
accolades. Huge accolades.
Okay. So I'm going into my budget request. So as you'll know, I increased my budget 11.15%. Slightly, and the reason I'm asking for this request is because I would like our purchasing assistant, I don't know the exact titles are, who is presently working part-time, who worked with the borough full-time. Her background in legal is a real compliment to this borough, being that we're looking at contractual agreements constantly. So when you look at local public contracts laws, there's a lot that goes into it. We have to ascertain pricing. We have to look at the availability of goods and services, and we're constantly looking at the quotes and trying to see if we're better off with a state contract or cooperative pricing system. There's a lot of reports and correspondence that go into this. We also are very strict on compliance, making sure that the vendors who try to sell us the goods and services are also compliant. We're making sure that all the requirements are met. Of course, that's not to say that there might be something that slips through the cracks, as long as it's not of the material, and we haven't had anything material, thankfully. We are ensuring with the clerk's office that the pay-to-play documentation for all of our window contracts are met, that we're watching the aggregate for the purchasing requirements when we have to go out to bid, and if we think there is potential to go out to bid. And we're ensuring confirmation of fine certification of funds prior to submission of resolution to the governing body. With that being said, and this is part of what you were asking for, the Florida position vacancy, which would now become a part-time position in the clerk's office. What was left of that money, I was absorbing into my budget. Being the finance officer, I have the advantage of knowing where all the money is. And I try to make it work for the borough. This is a value-added position that I'm requesting. Second part, I don't have an answer on yet with the finance assistant, but it ties in also with purchasing, and also we had one of our audit findings last year was related to the point system, and the TDAC members are the custodian of those records, and really there's no segregation of duties except for the fact that they sign off on the documentation point system. So instead of them asking for 12,000, I'm requesting, and I don't know if this is feasible because there may be a legal aspect to this, I'm requesting $5,000 to for my finance assistant to take on these responsibilities if it's allowed. I'm waiting for an answer on that. Most of the other items, I tried to keep my my other operating expenses down. it went up a tiny bit, but that's generally, well, mainly due to increases in our software providers, our billing documentation, doing 2 billings a year. Now we do estimated billings and then our final true up. So that was a slight increase. I kept it as thin as I could.
Hey, Susan,
That's it.
did you just finish when you said that's it?
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Okay, does anyone have questions for Susan? Wait, Vanu was first, then Lauren.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say that you and your department have done meritorious service in dealing with other departments and dealing with new employees who have come on and required institutional knowledge to help get them up to speed to where they should be. And for that, you should be commended. But your department has also been taking the brunt of our increasingly higher capital budget and the operating budget, as in a number of ways, because you had other new people needing to know how to deal with the financial system in place in the town. You've been a guide for that. And so, to the extent that you've kept your employees, your staff relatively lean over the past years, I think, the request is a modest request. To make the purchasing agent full-time. This person has been contributing in a lot of different ways because of her knowledge that has nothing to do with her current position. And I think all of that together just, is commendable.
Thank you.
Lauren, go ahead.
So I'm just gonna go back. So the part-time purchasing assistant right now, would she become the part-time payroll clerk?
No.
No,
We
totally
still
different.
have one full-time open position.
Would you wanna,
We really need that.
train her? Train the existing part-time purchasing assistant?
It's a different type of position, and they have to also be serving the public in the tax office.
Okay,
It's
so,
not that-
so you're gonna fill the vacancy with the payroll clerk, and that's 34, right? 34,425.
It's
And then-
45.9 altogether, and they would be a full-time position that would be in the clerk's office, in the payroll clerk position, and in the tax. And math.
Okay,
Now, if I can't find a full-time person, we may have to do 2 part-timers, but I really don't want to do that. Because when I've done that before, the turnover is
Correct.
terrible.
Correct.
okay. So the part-time purchasing assistant, you just want her to be a full-time purchasing assistant only?
We don't have enough time, period, to begin with. And we're finding that we're being extremely valuable to other departments by alleviating some of that work that goes into that by helping them.
Mhm.
They'll still get the quotes, they'll still write the resolution. The compliance part is what's hurting our department heads. The chief, I'm sure Mike could attest to this when it comes up here.
So is that a yes, Susan? Is that a yes to that question?
Yeah,
She's becoming full-time. Okay.
yeah.
No, but I was.
I wanna
just
explain
asking his
why.
duties, if there's anything else. that
This,
needs-
it's been proven that there's been things that have come across our desk where we might find something a little cheaper, or we might be able to find a better arrangement, or we might find something that's not in compliance, and then we have to address it. And you want your department heads to run their department and not do it.
So I get it, but then can we take out the $3,000 stipend for a qualified purchasing it for the?
That's me.
That's you, oh, you get that. But so if this person's going to make a full-time position,
I think that it would not be in the best interest of the borough, because I do the bid threshold and I'm there. You have to be qualified for the bid
Yes.
threshold,
It's a-
and it's in
cert-
under May.
Yes. It's a licensed thing.
Yeah,
Title or whatever.
purchasing generally falls under finance.
Got it. Okay, got
I
it.
have a
You
question,
could ask that.
just to build off that.
Yeah, go for it, then I'll ask tax.
So I do payroll for the county. It is a lot. What software do you use for payroll?
Use balance point.
And just by chance, does the new deputy treasurer have any experience with that? Or a
That's-
different program maybe? They can
I'm working
recommend?
like a real lot of hours on. I didn't even have to do payroll because I have a person in my department who's working extra hours too to do it. So where my plan is to try and get some of the lower level stuff and train this deputy treasurer to be able to come out of the office on vacation or something, that they could
Gotcha.
do some, keep up with my stuff. I think that, and I'm also gonna be moving some pension reporting from the payroll job to that job. Because I can see where I can move things around, and now's the time for me to do it.
So Susan, is there any way to decrease the amount of, your department's going up 11%? And each department's going up a little bit, it all adds up at the end, we're trying to do this tighter. Is there any way to offset these salaried positions in the operating or in something else?
So it is going up 11%, but it's really not going up 11% throughout the entire budget because $17,000 of that came from somewhere else.
So then what does that become? It's still going
So
up,
if I took out, what I'm saying is it was absorbed into my budget. I can tell you what the real, it really, as a whole, it's not really 11% if you look at where the money came from. It's almost cost neutral. The real amount that the borough was out, it's like, I think it was like 9,000 something. That would be the total increase to this budget.
I'm gonna ask this, is there any way to absorb the 9,000?
I have nowhere else to absorb. If I could have, I would have.
Have to ask.
That's good ask.
I'm okay.
Any other questions for Susan? No? Okay, Susan, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
And thank you, by the way, I just want to say thank you
No,
for
we got
all the
one-
budget.
Hold on,
budget.
question from Vanu.
The capital budget, was there anything to discuss on there? The 2,150? And
We have the chairs,
were any of those refused? Did you recommend against any of them?
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might sit on one.
We're gonna take a 2-minute break before we get started on capital.
Sorry, Mike.
Or public works, I mean.
Wait, this is Public Works
Wait,
Part
should I
2?
take a break now?
Let's take it now. We're only gonna be here another 50 minutes anyway.
Continuation of the program for the HVAC upgrades, which will make it a little more comfortable in here, Omar's office as well. That was recommended in last year's budget, carry on for 3 years.
Sorry, Mike, can you just tell me what page numbers on the corner of that? For building grounds?
I have my copy.
Page 35.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, it's a big section. so
My
I just
copy
gotta-
of the page numbers. My thumb is not on it.
Maybe
Um,
it's on.
So that's a continuation that I think we all know. We need to continue that program. Next, downtown lighting, again, continuation of the same program. We just placed the order for the downtown replacement headlights, the heads of the lights, and this will basically pay for the installation of those. The vendor is under state contract, supply only, there's no installations. So we'll have to get 3 quotes and get a local vendor. We've already reached out. And then the remainder of the money will stay in there for upgrade of holiday or whatever. Anything else comes up, repair of the.
Are those the
existing-
ones on the corner that are the teardrop ones or the ones that are?
They're the
short?
Dorchester.
Both?
For both.
Both?
All of the heads will be LED technology.
So is there any option to actually put a line item for lighting decorations for the winter season?
That might be in the admin budget. There's.
Jimmy, is that in your
Christmas
budget?
spectacular, Jim?
Yeah, I forget off the top of my head, but yeah, there is an amount in there. We could increase it if like, or
Well, I know we had gotten quotes in the past from Raleigh's, not that we want to talk about specific things, and it was about, 10, and I just didn't see it anywhere. Or like, they come in, they install, it's left up for a couple months, and then they come back down.
The guys that do that, the existing program now, I think is somewhere in the ballpark of 7,500. But that's not in my budget.
yeah, and they're also
Is
requesting.
it in our budget in general? Like,
Yes.
does anyone know it's in the budget?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so have we just not spent it, or is this the first time?
No,
it's in
they
the
do it.
budget?
They do it every year. They've been doing it. They've been hanging up. It's the same as in the years past. Yeah.
I know, but so I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about lighting.
Oh, lighting.
Lighting.
That would be a different, we'd have to get pricing and
So I mean,
that would be a guess at this point.
So
we've
next year,
gotten quotes that in the past,
And anything more than a year old,
not.
throw it out.
So okay, this lighting company that you're using, they don't do that type of lighting, right? For the
They
Dorchester
probably do.
LED,
They probably do.
would you mind just following up with them?
I can reach out to them.
Okay. Because the 7,500 is for decorations like wreaths and garlands. I'm talking about lighting that lights up the downtown during the winter months.
We could ask them. I'm sure they do the same work because that's their business
Decorative.
model. Yeah, so we could ask.
Go ahead, Mike.
Next, replacement of decorative borough signs. Everyone's familiar with the blue and gold signs. This is again, another project that started earlier. We've lost a couple to vehicle crashes, and we've got a couple of parking lot signs that need to be replaced.
does that include the new one for the pool area yet?
No, but
No?
there is budget money, I believe, for that in a different ordinance.
Cool. Good.
Just have
We
to
have.
ascertain it's still there.
We'll take that out. So.
Good answer.
It is?
Next, painting at Borough Hall. Painting various rooms, hallways at the municipal complex, the main north-south corridor where everybody is. We've also gotten prices for offices, the McCandless room, council chambers in here. Not sure if Wilson room is included. Check my points, but anyway, moving on. Maintenance repairs at the senior center, these various repairs necessary as requested by the director. A lot of minor stuff, a couple of bad windows, some siding damage, there's some roof issues, and an old shed, the shed in the back, DPW removed. Had animals under it. I don't know if anybody even knows, between there and the liquor store, there was a shed in the back. Holes in it, holes in the roof.
What was in the shack?
There was a couple of tables, it's storage for stuff that Michelle uses inside.
You're the senior center.
Yes. So
Actually, I did know that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
we took that down at her request.
Not useful.
Not weathertight, animal proof or anything.
Yeah.
And in that request is cost for a new Rubbermaid shed
Okay.
to be determined, which model we get.
Can we talk about the salt dome roof?
Can I just?
Yeah, you want to go through? That's fine, that's fine.
Interior painting and exterior repairs at DJ Park. The exterior repairs, replacement of the missing exterior shingles.
Mhm.
That it's ongoing, unfortunately. The rear door is missing the railing that overlooks the rose garden.
Yes.
I got prices to replace the metal railing, but we also need to redo the capstones, which kind of adds some money.
Is it cheaper to remove the second wrought iron and go with a different material? And I know
They
it's
tried that.
attractive,
They
but
tried it, they went with wood and it rotted out, and it's designed to be concrete and.
wrought iron.
So I would go with the same product, and it'll last eons longer.
Okay.
So the painting inside would be the entire interior meeting room, offices, bathrooms, and vestibule. It's back on repairing all the major cracks, which unfortunately.
We went past the painting of the McCandless, right?
Painting McCandless was in the Borough Hall painting.
Can I just make a request for not yellow? Can we have something up to date and fresh feeling?
I would defer to almost anyone on color choice, other than myself.
Should be saying yes.
The pump bay garage at the DPW, it's tough to explain. It's one of, on the old garage doors where we keep the sewer pump that Mayor is very familiar with, we use up at the sewer station when it goes down.
Fun times, good times.
So we need that door replaced. It's no longer repairable. I have quotes in hand from the door company telling us, do not use this door anymore. The oil separator at the DPW, we're familiar with that. And the ask, at this point, we whittled it down. We said 100,000, but depending on testing results, that number will change because the engineering will also cost us the area of, I think, $18,000 between permits and the engineering fee. And we keep our fingers crossed that there's no contamination. Salt dome replacement.
Wait, I'm sorry, so the teen center restroom floors, are we replacing them or just repairing?
I don't know, you're skipping ahead.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Oh, I'm
Salt-
sorry, that came before my salt dome.
Oh, we're on his.
We're on number
his sheet.
17, salt
Oh,
dome.
you know what? It's funny. I'm sorry. I'm going off Capitol.
Oh, okay, no, I'm sorry. So the salt dome roof replacement, anybody's come down there, see the shingles are off, we've got underlayment that's got holes in it, see through it. There's interior damage to the structure and it's very involved. It's not just a, you know, a roof, it's a beehive truss.
So can I ask a silly question? And maybe, you know, I understand this. I drive into New York City all the time. I drive past 125th. And there's just salt in the elements. It's just sitting in like a bay, you know, this massive amount of salt. Why do we need to dome our salt?
There's different regulations. See, in New York, you have the DEP in New Jersey, and you're not.
They
allowed to
require a
dome
roof
stuff.
here in New
Has to be
Jersey.
done. And I mean, the structure itself is in great shape. It just needs some TLC. And when I reached out, I found the name of the manufacturer. I got my quote from the guy that built the shed. And, you know, he told me that and I didn't believe him. And when he came down there with all his notes from when he actually built the shed, I said, okay, I got the real deal. So that would have to be bid out, of course. But I would recommend that we find somebody that does dome tech repairs only, because you'd have a pest, they take the wrong part out.
What's the life? How long did it last?
That's been there since 1988.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that, this, like I said, the concrete walls are in great shape. They're gonna do a little bit of veneer work on those, the new front, a new door, and new fan in the back. That is now wrapped. You can't turn the fan off because everything's sagging. Next, repair teen center restroom floors. Floors are sinking in the teen center bathroom.
Yeah, so that's my question.
Yeah.
Because I know that there was, I don't know if it's cracks, whatever it is. So are we gonna do a physical repair or are we just replacing the surface was really my question. We're gonna lift up the existing floor, repair it, and then
Right,
cover it.
Take out the existing,
Right, the subfloor itself is sinking.
Yes.
repack what's underneath.
And you know that when we replaced the wood floor throughout, what we had to do, I think it's before your time, the entirety of the youth center had cracks through the entire floor. There's actually structural damage and flooding underneath. So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Should we have an engineer be looking at more than just the bathrooms?
So that's the first I'm hearing about the rest of them, but I
Oh,
get
yeah.
inside.
Were you
it's
here for that?
anybody's guess.
Dan, Dan and Jeff were definitely here for that.
So the whole building needs to be looked at in terms of what's going on there, because we're not gonna throw good money after bad, but so that's an upcoming proposal that's coming to the council to bring an engineer in to get authorized for that, to review it.
So I'm saying, do we want to go ahead? I mean,
It's a trip hazard. It has to be done.
for us to have it open.
Yeah, just have it open. Gotta have it. Painting at TVAC, the ambulance garage, walls, large reading room, and the small meeting. The garage, I don't think is a 911, but it was requested by TVAC, so I.
They took it
placed that
out.
order. If, you know, the inside, it definitely needs it. We were going to use operating budget. They had requested new bathrooms. But it's too late for me to get an estimate, and I don't think that replacement, they need TLC with fixtures, new heating elements and paint, and I think they'll be fine.
We actually gave him the money for the internal surface of the bathroom, but nothing,
Okay.
not a major
So
renovation.
between what they have and what I can do out of operating, they'll be okay. But the painting, the rest of the place is definitely new.
We took the bathrooms out? I thought
No,
we
we
put
took
it in.
the painting on TV.
We took the painting out of T-back.
Yeah.
We're not painting
Keep
Out
going.
of, out of,
out of
oh,
T-back.
okay, all right, so I'm going with my original ask, I'm sorry. So next, ceiling in the firehouse meeting room. Ceiling's in disrepair, requested by the chief.
That building's not that old.
Did you cover this with the chief or no?
We didn't, but that building is, you know, built not that long ago.
Firehouse, I don't know how, the firehouse has got to be 30+ years old.
Good point.
Firehouse? No. Might be thinking about the police station.
Police station is built.
Was built about 10 years ago, 9 years ago. No, separate buildings.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michael.
I think it's torn down.
Flooring we took out, correct?
Just don't remember one.
The floor, let's see where that is. Uniforms in firehouse.
7.
Yeah, that looks like it's so.
We start with the ceiling this time and try for
It's gone, but the ceiling is still in.
ceiling is still, that's
Yeah.
what I thought we said.
Yes.
So we do the ceiling, it makes sense, start at the top, work our way down, try and get the floor next year. Building maintenance equipment, machinery used flooring by the staff in the building here, floor machines, got quotes from the companies, new vacuums, buffers, things like that. And then the last one was the electronic time locks on restrooms. That's at Sunnyside and the Shack. So we have to have a recreation representative go out there, unlock and lock the doors.
So Michael, is that falling under various building maintenance equipment, or what is that falling under?
Building maintenance equipment,
Yeah, in other words, those locks, where is it?
locks should be right after that. I'm looking at Susan's list now.
Oh, I see it. Hold on, I just found it. Okay.
Oh, you can go, you just can't go in. Okay.
Get out, right?
That's all at the bottom, 17,000.
Good idea.
Yeah, but I think we're looking for the locks in here. The question is, so it's $5,000 for the locks he's estimating. We took it out, and that's an issue where, it's $5,000, or we pay our employee to do it.
It makes more sense to put the technology in
What?
than the.
We're gonna what?
You need the locks in.
Put the locks in.
And the bench, it might not be on the sheet. But I put
Pride
it in.
bench.
Yeah, the
Pride
bench will go in. It's, might not be, it's not gonna affect our capital fund. Right.
So I have some questions
This number.
on capital and operating for Mike. Landscaping additions. So when we go and we add flowering bushes or flowering trees or evergreens or whatever we want to add, you and I have discussed this over the years. Where in your budget is landscaping, and does it need to be a capital purchase, the trees and plants?
If you had a park that you said, okay, we want to totally redo this, we have to put it in there as capital, I believe.
I'm not redoing, I want to supplement and add to each and every.
In the operating in parks, that's where we take our flowers out. I think they used to get them from the garden club, but I think that kind of worked its way out somehow. So we purchased from local vendors, Cletus Farms, Victoria's, and the guys, they pick something to go with, and, they discuss amongst themselves and get the beauty of something.
So if I right now want to put, let's say, a whole lot of peonies, which come back every year, they're, they not peonies, I'm sorry, hydrangeas. Come back every year, you put them in, they're winterized, they don't have a lot of cleanup. If I want to put a whole lot of hydrangeas around our park benches or our playground areas, to beautification of our town. How do I get that into this budget? Just as a concept.
That's what, we'd have to plan it out. You kind of got to know the space.
Mhm.
How are you going to irrigate? It's got to be something that's sustainable.
Right.
You can't put it like parking lots we've discussed.
Right.
It's a heat sink. You can't, That way I have time to go out and water. all.
But that might be rock beds and evergreens, which we discussed
Right,
for the
so-
parking lots.
For this year's budget, I mean, I don't think there's any meat on the bone as far as, for me to just say, I can't just throw out a number because.
Well, we got numbers last year. Remember, we sat, we priced out trees, we priced out bushes and shrubs and flowers. And then I never saw it come to fruition. So what happens? We have this conversation again and again, but I'm still not getting any of the beautification efforts that I'd like to make.
I mean, council directed items, you tell me to do it and says do it, it gets done. As far as, request in the budget, say, look, we got these numbers, I want to do this, then, I can always ask for it. But where are we doing it? And
That's what I'm saying. Is there a line item that I need to be looking at right now in operating, or is this a
In
capital?
operating would be in the parks.
But it's not a capital purchase to purchase additional trees or shrubs.
No, it would just go under the parks. Susan?
Oh, I mean, you could do park improvements, but I'd have to really check about that.
Or
I'm not
park
sure.
supply, park supplies, one of the, I'd have to open Edmonds up and look to see where we're.
Okay, but it's in
Yeah.
We
operating.
still have money in the tree fund.
We have money in the tree fund. We're actually doing a tree planting. We have about 35 or so interested residents on a list. And we're gonna put 6 trees in the Tenafly Swim Club. They had to take some down last year, so it's our land, but they paid to have the trees removed. We told them we would replant. So we're gonna put a half dozen in there. Right now, somewhere around between 40 and 50 trees. We spoke to the nursery this week. We've already started knocking on the doors, making sure the same people are there so that we don't put a tree at the wrong spot. So that number could change a little. Councilwoman O'Connor had recommended maybe put the blast out and let people know, but I think that would be a problem at this point. We're at the tipping point for my guys to do it in-house. We're not doing this out. We have, I think, $34,000 in the account, and we don't want to use the whole thing anyway, so.
Okay.
Mike, we, the other evening, four of us made a decision to apply for a grant to have a renovation project over at Tenafly. So would it behoove us maybe this year to put the trees somewhere else while we develop the plan for that?
If I said Tenafly, then it's Tenafly. It's the active swim club is where we're. putting it.
Tenafly is the active swim club.
Yeah,
You're going to the active ones.
it's going to the
The
active,
active one.
it's going to Tenafly, not Tenafly.
Got it. Okay.
I missed those up.
I had discussed with Susan, every year I ask for 2 things. I ask for tables and benches for our residents in various parks and playgrounds. I go to playgrounds with my children. There's nowhere to sit. There's nowhere to put a bag down. There's nowhere for a little kid to have a snack. So I ask for tables and chairs, ideally with some umbrellas for shade, and I ask for playground equipment. This year in Froggy, there's a piece of equipment that needs to come out, the spinner. It's broken. I'd like to replace it. It's a capital purchase, right? It's a capital.
That is, I think there might be money left in one of the parks and it could be frauded.
So I gave Susan some quotes and showed her some options of playground equipment from the vendor that we've used. That Jamie used, Jamie Cannon had.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
parks equipment is Jamie's.
So she says it's yours. There's a disagreement on that one because I already went to her on this and she says it's in your budget. You say it's in her budget. So just to let you know, tables and chairs, a picnic table is $909. With a foot pedestal for little kids, it's closer to $2,000. If you get an umbrella, it's another couple $100, for shade. I would like to order 10 of these. I would like to order 6 of these. I would like to put them in Froggy Park, in Walnut Park that we just beautifully redid. I'd like to put them in Griffin Park. There's families that come and literally they're putting their kids, diaper bags, strollers in the ground, on the dirt, on the mud. There's nowhere really that's sufficient for the amount of people that come and utilize these spaces. And they're great community spaces. So I would like to add to your budget capital purchases of tables, benches, and umbrellas for playgrounds. I would also like to add in a replacement piece of equipment in Froggy Park. And I gave Susan a couple options of quotes or pricing. It doesn't have the installation pricing. It doesn't have the installation, or does DPW install it?
I think the,
Was this in anybody's budget?
Yeah, what are we talking?
This is in the DPW budget.
So it's in the budget already?
No,
okay, let's take a stop here.
I'm finding out if it's in it or not in it.
So-
Okay, can I just add something?
Go ahead.
So I did put it in the budget because it really needed to be discussed collectively because it wasn't there. And Lauren had asked if these things were there. But I
I'm
told her to
asking, is
bring it
there-
up during this meeting for
Right.
the governing body to know. If these are very small dollars, since we took down the capital plan, we still have enough money for the down payments should you wish to add some of this in.
So what's the summary ask here? What
She
do we?
wants benches, umbrellas, tables, for the park.
And a replacement piece of equipment in Froggy Park.
What is that number?
And add it up, do you want me to add it up?
Well, sure. So it's 900, here, do this
I
table.
don't, so this is kind of like out of left field, so.
No, it's not. We discussed it.
Meeting we've had.
It's not. It goes in the capital here. And so my question is it already within his budget? No, but if it's already in his budget, or do I now need to supplement the budget to ask for this stuff?
It's not my budget.
So you don't have a budget right now to replace the piece of playground
It's not
equipment,
my
Froggy?
We did it last time it broke, we took it out of my operating.
I'd have to look.
You took it out.
Because it was a repair of an existing vehicle.
So this is not part of the DPW conversation.
It is the DPW. It goes in the
Okay.
DPW budget.
Why don't you, I think Mark missed something here, the mayor missed something. She thought it was a recreation, and she found out
Right.
it might be a DPW.
I was told it was a-
Okay, so what's the number?
You have to give me the number.
All right, so
I don't,
I'm gonna say 20, because the playground equipment piece is over 10. It's probably about 12 to replace. There's a piece of equipment in Froggy Park with tape around it that we need to take out, remove, and then buy and install.
okay, so have you,
We already discussed all these. Susan and I sat down and discussed, and we looked it up.
go ahead, Jeff, please.
Here's the thing.
Tables and chairs.
Here's the thing. I said this previously. We need the red pen, not the blue. I get that. So if you're going to ask for 20,000 for that, which is fine, you have the right to, let me finish. Then I want you to find something in capital
I don't need to. What I need to
equal,
do,
equal to 20,000 to take out.
I'm not, because what I need to do is talk to the 300 parents that show up to our playground that are putting their bags in the dirt. And when I show up with my kids and they're all going, Lauren, why aren't there tables and benches here? That's what I need to do.
Okay.
I need to represent the young families of our community. I'm asking for tables and benches.
And
Dan, go ahead.
They do it every year.
every year, which is great, at the wrong time every year.
No, this is I literally asked this question a month ago. I'm told, bring it up in DPW capital.
You didn't ask at a council meeting a month ago. You may have had a private conversation, but you didn't bring it up at the council meeting.
This is our capital discussion. We didn't discuss
Right.
500 things in this thing
Okay.
during the council meeting.
We have 13 minutes
Right. Go ahead.
to finish DPW and do all capital.
Susan, wait,
The-
let
the
Jeff
cap-
finish.
Oh, I didn't-
So all I'm saying is we have 13 minutes to finish DPW and do all of capital.
okay.
Go ahead, Susan.
I just want everybody to know that we are now below $4 million.
Good.
Keep that in mind, not to go past it, but 30,000 would not be.
Let's let's relieve Cassidy of
Yeah.
having to be here at 10 o'clock at night.
I'm not done. I'm not
Okay,
done.
so what's
I'm
the,
not done with Mr. Cassidy, if that's okay.
well, right, we're trying to finish up with him. So what were your comments?
The tennis courts also are being requested to be resurfaced. They are cracked. Is that right now in your operating capital in anywhere?
Neither.
Neither.
That came up after I submitted all my stuff. And
So-
we looked into it and this was a 2-year repair, I was told,
Yeah, well, it was brought up 2 years ago, but
but it's not going to be in this year. I don't have it this year.
okay, it was brought up when they cracked 2 years ago, I think before your time. So I'm just putting it out there. But again, I've asked both Jamie, Recreation Department and DPW to follow through with this. So Jimmy, I'm going to task you with this as the BA. Our tennis courts, we resurfaced them for $200,000 and every single one of them is cracked.
Wasn't it a lawsuit or something?
We never did it.
Okay, let's,
That has to be said.
So I was
that's a whole
told it was
separate
in the
question.
budget. I was told it was going to be in a budget. It's not.
All right, go ahead, Michael, continue. Where are we?
Finished with my capital requests. I'd like to revisit the supervisor ask.
Let's go.
Did the council get the description, the job description of the gentleman?
Yes.
So the budget for this position would be between 105 and 120. I've spoken with Susan about it. That this position does not have overtime. It's different than the former general foreman's position. And you can see what the general outlay of their duties would be, day-to-day operations of the DPW. And freeing me up to do the other duties that kind of get neglected when I'm.
All right. So Susan, go ahead, Jeff, please.
Just a quick question, because I know one of the things that takes up a massive ton of your time is tree inspections. But that's not part of the description for this individual?
The tree inspections is, I could train somebody. It's very difficult. You really need the tree expertise to have these conversations with these residents and developers because it's an argument every time.
Because I know how much time that takes you out of the office. And that would be one of the things that I'd actually, if we're going to go with this route, something I would want to see, either training to take some of that off your shoulder. Because when I see you driving around on a Saturday and you got a carload of folders, that's not good.
The operating would free me up also during the day to do those things. It's that. Yeah, it's you have to have really good.
Benu, go ahead, please.
But, am I wrong? We do have a tree foreman. And he doesn't have that knowledge?
He has some of it, yeah.
Can't
He's a
we,
certified arborist, yeah.
so can't we just get him up to speed and make that his primary responsibility?
Primary responsibility is taking care of the tree in town. Pull him off of that, then I gotta put somebody else in this one.
Yeah, but he should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? I mean, he has to be able to do both, I would think.
It's a lot of work.
I don't disagree, but we have a tree foreman and we have, two people under him, so.
Michael addressed this issue. The question becomes is, can you send the tree crew out to operate without the foreman?
Yes, you can. Not at all times, though. The senior guy on the tree crew has been on it 2 years. So, sending him out to work around power lines, major removals, busy roads, recipe for disaster.
Say that again, what?
It's a recipe for disaster.
No, all I'm saying is if we have a tree foreman, somehow, I don't think.
It's also taking an existing job description and you said, here you go. 15 hours, 20 hours a week. Where's he gonna do it? It's gonna happen to his regular job. Nothing's gonna get done there.
I kind of think this should be part of his responsibilities. I mean, is it not in
It's
his?
never been before. It's been director's responsibility since the ordinance was brought up. in
Really?
1992 or whatever. It's always been
Wow.
director.
Is that something you want to actually assign to somebody?
I would rather farm it out to somebody that is a part-timer that didn't work for the borough, but it's not, folks, it's not gonna work. You really need somebody that's partisan in it and is willing to take full by the horn.
So I want
But
to
it's not the same.
pick up on that comment. This is Michael's job, is to run the DPW. It's not, he's got 25 plus years in this business. Collectively on this dais, we have zero experience running a DPW. So I think we need to trust him. And this supervisor role, especially based on the fact that we can pay for it out of the existing budget. The plan was to eliminate 2 of the vacancies. To kind of take those vacancies and turn it into this essentially. I think if that's what Michael is recommending and it's a non-overtime role,
Or,
I think we have to go with it.
I'm a yes.
Or was it 3? I thought there was a discussion about 3.
So
Go ahead, Susan.
Mike and I did have a conversation about this. earlier today, and I asked him that very pointed question. You get rid of, can you eliminate 3 positions? And he explained to me that and we used to have a general foreman position, and there has been a decrease, and he thinks that he definitely needs the other slots to stay.
So let me ask you,
And with the 40,000 out from the nature center and part of the budget for the other vacancies within the borough, it's not gonna, it's gonna be cost neutral.
And you're doing this in-house? The
It would
search?
be offered in-house first.
Yeah, I have to say, I always like a job advertised both in and out. I always want you to consider both candidates.
okay, what else, Michael?
We did bounce this off Alicia, I just heard her name. We did bounce this off Alicia, at Jimmy's behest, and she did recommend it was we add 2 years of performance experience. Probably about 5 years as opposed to 3.
So it sounds like we have a general consensus to move
Yes.
forward on that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Michael, continue.
That's all I have.
Awesome.
Any other questions for Michael?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for being here.
My hand is up.
I didn't see you. Go ahead.
No, you.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I actually just want to talk about Walnut Park for a second. So I was down there and the walls are breaking on some of the existing playground, like the barrier walls around the ADA compliant swing. And another, again, I'm back at playgrounds because this is where my world is. Is there anything in your budget for repair or replacement of some of the stuff down at Walnut? I know we just put in that whole new thing, but I'm talking about that older
I'm
stuff.
aware of it, but yeah, if it needs to be done, we'll pick that operator.
Okay, maybe I'll meet you down there and I'll walk with you. You don't mind.
Any other questions for Michael?
Stand up quickly.
I just want to say, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start.
I don't know.
Go.
Is there anything else to discuss, guys? You've
Yes.
got 5 minutes.
I got a list. I got a list.
So, questions on capital?
Right, I think it's mostly covered, so let's just go through and see if maybe we're in good shape. Susan, since we're now under where we were targeting.
We haven't discussed the website. We haven't made a decision on the website.
Okay, so why don't Susan, you want to walk us through where we are on the capital?
What do we
Where
take?
we left off?
What's out and what's in?
Right.
I don't know. I have like too many different versions of the sheet that I marked.
Okay, so we had what was it, 1830 something, 1,800,000, I don't know if I wrote that with thing, maybe I did. For the temporary, which is where we passed the first reading, we're gonna be having the second.
Yeah, we already did that already, right?
Yeah, but then we're under 2 million there,
Perfect.
and on this one, we are at 1952.
Beautiful.
We're under there. So that's what's in the capital right now.
Great.
We forgot to ask him about a second hot pot.
He doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it right now.
That's
You
that.
don't need to.
I asked him that.
Good.
So really, if there are
We
a few
covered
more
that.
items that like add-ons to this is general and anything, add-ons to the website, that would be a plus to the budget.
Well,
I
Wilson, we
think
might know for sure.
You guys brought up IT personnel, like,
That was free. That was supposed to be in there.
Trying to understand what it might be.
okay, so that's not gonna affect the budget any of these things in the capital, that should be discussed. We do need a special engineer for an RFQ to go out for the engineer, if we, when we continue with any downtown, projects. Those, this will be debt, the 195, and then if you do ordinances on the American Rescue Plan, you can talk about that collectively and go through that. It won't be with this. That's a separate ordinance.
Okay, so let's go around and see if, what I hear you saying is, everything we've been discussing is in here. It's actually under the target that we hit. So, collectively, and everyone can go around, there's something that they don't want in here, let's talk about it, but otherwise, we said we sort of wanted all this, and it's underneath the target that we
So
set.
let's just go around the table, Dan.
Questions?
I don't even know, I didn't keep track of what's in and out now.
Yeah.
It's just,
Things keep changing.
Okay,
I-
let's, I'll read what's.
Yeah,
in.
just go down the list.
Okay, hold on.
Page 22. No, no,
Okay,
give us,
so the temporary is been passed. We're not gonna-
yeah, no, no temper.
Right. So we have automatic license plate readers, 55,000.
And that's in addition to what we just passed in the temporary?
Oh, I think we
Yes.
should go with it. That's in addition to the 66 that we
Yes.
passed.
Okay, all right. Mhm.
Bay storage and furnishings, 10,000. Boilers, 210,000.
We took that day furnishings out.
I don't have it out. I don't have it out.
Why does it say? Yeah, why does
Oh,
it say recommended?
we need one of the boilers, you know. Okay. The Caterpillar that Mike just discussed, 280, that stayed.
Good.
We took out, let's see. The 30,000 we took out because that would be a supplemental to a previous bond, or you can't do that. Let's see, computer laptops, 3,600, 40,000 for
Software.
hard to read. Permit software. We kept in the council chambers, upgrades of audio equipment. We took out the Wilson room.
Yep.
Let's see, we had defibrillators for the police, we kept in. And then we took out the scanning. We had that in the previous ordinance. Next line.
EV charging.
The EV charger. The fiber optics, that was zero. The football helmet.
That's zero?
Fiber optics is out.
Oh, no, fiber optics.
Fiber optics is in.
I just, 17,000.
Wait, that's for the, Mark, that's for the senior center? Jimmy?
Yes.
Wait,
Yes.
Confirm? That's staying in.
hold on.
I thought the senior said that 17,000 was, weren't we just gonna call up,
Right,
Files.
so we're trying to figure that out. So I'm sorry, Jimmy, we're trying to figure that out, but in case that doesn't work.
Oh,
we
so
have
it's in.
to-
Okay, good. Okay, good.
4,000.
For the football helmets.
The dump truck we took out, 13,000 for the.
So 6,500 is out.
Yep,
65,000.
It's 1,000,
Yep.
helps if I say the right.
13,000 for the mobile computers for the chief. Video recorders, there's in 10,600. Zero for the personal protective clothing. That was because you. Oh, no, that was.
Wait,
what
I thought we lowered that.
That's fire.
No, we didn't. Portable radios, 50,000 for T-VAC. We took out the message trailer. We took out the
ADA.
GRC Packard Trust. There's a question on this Crown Victoria. I think we're gonna have to take it out for now, figure out what we're gonna do with the
yes,
car.
take it, yes, we said take it out.
That's what, I have 4 cars on the list. Susan and I were keeping a car list.
Crown Vic came,
Utility
the Crown Vic came out.
The command vehicle. Oh, what's going on with that?
Command vehicle, we were gonna switch it. It says not least, we were gonna switch it with the police, the 2005 Ford Explorer, wasn't it? Oh, no, that's the
Oh, I
fire.
don't think
prevention.
so.
No, that goes to the fire.
Oh, we
prevention.
took out the command vehicle.
Here,
We took it
look.
out.
No,
No, we didn't.
the Ford Explorer goes to the fire prevention, the fire command vehicle we left in.
That was, what was the, I can't see.
Because
The
it-
six, oh, the command vehicle, we left in 60,000.
I had a note on that for SUV.
1,000 is out.
Jimmy, go ahead.
I had a note on that one as a SUV. Replace a
which one?
command vehicle for deferred from 2019.
So the utility pickup is out, and the command vehicle is in.
So 80
Is that
is
what,
is
wait,
out.
is that what we're saying, Susan?
I had 80 as in
Okay,
the
BFU utility.
fire utility vehicle.
okay. And the command vehicle is in.
And the command vehicle
That's 140,000.
is in.
Okay, so let's replace responder, that's out.
TVAC responder 43 is out.
We're,
The
40,000.
the 80,
the
That's
80,000,
out.
it's out. Okay.
right? And then this was next thing.
Roll-off boxes, 28,000.
28,000.
Yeah.
And then we
Top kick is out for 270.
have, can see better than me.
SCBA packs are in for 75. The software for the senior center at 4,000 in, the stump grinders in at 80. The tables and chairs, et cetera, for 3,750 are in.
What are those tables and chairs?
That's for the
Senior center.
Thermal imaging cameras are out. Toro mowers in at 16. Utility vehicles in at 83. Uplift costs are in at 33. The wall oven is in at 1,900.
Yes. Keep going. You're on
Okay,
fire.
yeah, the multi-purpose amphitheater.
That's, we're gonna use open space, we might have a discussion about open space. But I-
Wait a minute, that's gonna reduce this down.
Okay, so let's go down the list. before we
Okay,
start.
I got it.
Outdoor fitness park is out.
Did we make that decision?
Yes.
Yes.
The
Okay.
multi-purpose recreation cage,
Also out.
that was out. The, okay,
The microsurfacing I'm gonna take from other
Wait,
ordinances and
So that 84 is out.
stays, that 165 is gonna be from another ordinance, 84 stays in.
So for a grand total of
250.
okay,
Yes.
yep.
That's a lot of money.
All right, on the next page, next page under facilities, biannual borough library exhibit, left that in. Downtown lighting, 35,000 is in. We've got 8 items here from the ARP funds that are in. The electronic time locks on bathroom, you said we're gonna find money elsewhere on that, so that is out.
No, I'm not gonna find money.
So we need
No, but-
5,000,
I'm gonna
okay,
put
Brent. Okay, so
Wait a
we're adding
second.
that 5 for the
The-
locks.
Hold on. The downtown revitalization numbers, that's the ARP, that's not in, that's in a separate.
And that's coming out of ARP.
That's a separate ordinance.
Separate, right.
Separate ordinance, not part of this.
That's dedicated to them.
It's,
All right, I'll
they
ask
call it
And
different things.
there's still discussion about it.
Funds,
Okay.
virus.
All right. Removal of Tenafly swim.
Sorry.
And Mayor,
Councilman Menon has a concern.
Okay, go ahead.
there's still discussion about it because we haven't gotten a list of the different items that can go into the American Rescue Plan, which has been asked for. And the other thing is, we haven't gotten,
What was asked?
we've asked for what other items can go into the American Rescue Plan, and we've gotten verbal responses of this can go in, that can go in, this can't, this can't. We asked for an actual document that shows what can go in and what can't, so that we can evaluate other items that could potentially go into, be used for the American Rescue Plan.
You want to talk to that, Susan?
Okay, so just so everybody understands, these focuses mainly on this capital plan. The American Rescue Plan funds there would be a separate ordinance, and we will need quotes on it. So
And we need discussion. We're not just getting quotes on these items.
we'll,
We need a discussion to
Every
understand what.
ordinance requires
yeah,
discussion.
you have
No,
to.
but I'm saying to make sure that these are the items we want, okay?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we do with the ordinances all the time.
Right, but this is not, set in stone that these are going to be on the ordinance. I'm saying that we need to find out what other items can be, the American Rescue Plan funds can be used for.
Okay, so this is what I would suggest. If anybody has anything that they would like to use American Rescue funds for,
I don't know what we can
Well,
use, that's my point.
So part
so
of,
you could ask me and I will get back. So it's mental health, public safety.
But that's what I'm saying, these are all verbal, things. I'm saying
Just write us
we
a
need
memo.
something.
Just write us
We
a
need, we need a
Can
website,
we just write us a memo?
a memo, a website, I mean, something where we
But
can.
I'm unclear. You want Susan to just come up with all the ideas there are in the world to what you could spend money on?
I could put a broad, item.
She's not gonna give you projects.
That's not what I'm asking for.
What do you ask
What I'm
for?
asking for is a list of the items that
All right, so
that
let's-
said we
let's-
can use the American Rescue Plan funds.
let Susan answer the question
Okay.
here.
I will put together a list, a broad list of what could be done.
That was.
And if somebody has something that they want to
That
put
was
into that list, we can talk about it. And just know that this is going to be 2 ordinances to be introduced and adopted.
At a future
And
date,
they
yes.
meet at the same time or a different time. So that's what everybody needs to know. It doesn't matter when These funds are available, American Rescue funds are readily available. If we wanted to use something at the next meeting, we could. This capital plan will be introduced hopefully on April 26th. Maybe it won't be, but the American Rescue money that we have in the reserve can be utilized at any time.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, because Councilman I know has some questions. This is, unless you want to, so unless you have a point of view now,
No, that
ordinance is going to have these things in them. They're going to come in the same
no,
time.
that is not the way this works.
Why not?
Because we haven't agreed on these items for the American Rescue.
So let's discuss now. Let's go one by
No,
one.
I don't want to discuss these because we haven't gotten an idea of what other things we can use it for.
But we actually made decisions at the council
We-
table and made a list, and Susan passed
We,
already.
Right, so we're having an argument
Made
about,
a list.
we're having an argument about topics that are not going into the capital.
exactly. So we shouldn't be discussing it for the purpose of
Not
this
waiting.
capital.
But
But I don't want us to be,
I want to
to,
make sure we do this right, because they can take the funding back. We need an
Oh, it is thunder.
engineer.
It's thunder.
We need to make sure their quotes are good.
Yeah.
'Cause we need an engineer. I said it at the last meeting.
So
We need
there
to
are,
do
there
that.
are a lot of moving parts with the American Rescue money, okay? On a statewide level. And one of the things that happens is when we say, okay, we want to use ARP money for task A. The first thing Susan does is sends an email out to the auditor and saying, am I not?
Well, I send it actually sometimes to the state.
To the state, and it's
We
okay.
do
LGS.
this right, they will pull the money back. If there's uniform guidelines, federal uniform guidelines. So we have this list, and yeah, we use that. I would myself prefer to use for big projects. But I don't know, I'm telling you the truth, I'm looking at these numbers. I need to make sure these numbers are good numbers. And right now, I don't have anything to
Okay,
support.
so,
but at the
But
moment,
it doesn't, it's not gonna happen. Collectively, this group needs to decide.
yeah, at the moment, you're going on the assumption that these are the items that we're looking into and we need quotes on these items. And I'm saying that we haven't decided that.
Well,
Just for fun, do you have any ideas whatsoever to put to this? And just name one. Do you have any ideas that you have proposed over the past year?
I
We've
think-
been talking
I
about these
think-
recoveries, but just
I
for
think,
me,
I think
one.
the SCBA tanks,
So which one?
the SCBA tanks, we can use
Okay.
that.
But that
We
actually,
have it, it's in the budget.
guys,
That's,
we should be looking for grants for that.
okay, so we're not here to talk about all this stuff, right?
Next.
This is
Next.
where we
One,
are.
I'll
Let's
give you
keep going down the
Shut the
capital.
fuck
All right, removal of the Tenafly Swim Club pool.
Out.
200,000 is out. HVAC Muni Complex, 175 is in. Painting at Davis Johnson for 15 is in. Ceiling in the firehouse for 38 is in. Flooring in the firehouse is out.
Jeff, is that?
Painting at Borough Hall, 20,000 is in. TVAC painting is out. Pergola at Pilot is out. Maintenance and repairs at Senior Center at 10,000 are in. Bay garage doors at DPW for 4,500 is in. 12,000 replacement of decorative borough signs is in. 6,100 for teen center restroom floors are in. Assault dome at DPW for 125 is in. 17,000 for maintenance equipment is in, and that's it.
So we're,
I had written FEMA with,
Hold on a second. Julia's first.
I had written a question mark about FEMA with the salt zone roof replacement. Was that something that Susan might?
well, Mike, I don't know if you were here when Lauren asked the question about the dome. He said it's a requirement in the state of New Jersey.
Oh, no,
Separate question.
I meant the
Reimbursement.
FEMA
Can FEMA
funding.
reimburse us?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to find
It's a
out.
good question, Julie.
It is a good question. Oh, my God.
Okay, we need to. look
Ask
at
for it
this.
after today.
All right, does anybody have any questions about capital or we're done?
Really clear. Am I introducing
Yes, we're done.
We didn't talk about the website.
I'd rather get.
What-
I'd
Yeah, no,
rather
it's like-
Go
Yeah,
there.
please.
what I would ask for, just so I can see it, we have some things in our budget that were in that just were,
Send it around again.
yeah.
Yeah, the final
I think
version.
I'm gonna add this.
I never took
gonna
it.
add
So it's like the amphitheater.
Get everything ready.
Yeah, it's out.
Yep, the final copy, send it around. Susan,
Sorry.
Update.
final copy, send it to the council members. This is how it's getting introduced. We can
Okay.
go home. Have a,
Everyone drive safely out there, please.
Yeah.
A motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
A race like this.